that may be more valuable than cash itself. Discussion points include the advantages of using fintech for investment, blockchain applications for the financial sector, the pros and cons of crypto, tokenization and the push for digital currency, and how IoT is used in banking. Register now to attend the Smart Money 4.0 webinar to learn how to prepare your finances for Industry 4.0 and how to choose IoT and other connected solutions for the financial and banking sectors that make dollars and cents. Don't wait. Register now to attend. Each year, IoT Marketing and Industry Insights webinars host a live virtual event to honor IoT ecosystem professionals and connected solution providers. After the success of its inaugural awards event last year, IoT Marketing's Industry Insights webinars will host the second annual 2021 Industry Insights IoT Awards on Thursday, December 16th with hosts Tiffany Nielsen and Steve Brummer. The Industry Insights IoT Awards have core values such as community, sustainability, efficiency, and education. The Industry Insights IoT Awards aim to gain public recognition for IoT professionals, companies, and products that have demonstrated outstanding achievements, which have been instrumental in helping to digitally transform industries through IoT. The categories for this year's program include IoT Product of the Year, Best IoT Security Solution, Best Asset Tracking Solution, Space Tech Solution of the Year, Greenest IoT Solution, Digital Transformation Innovator of the Year, IoT Systems Integrator of the Year, the Tech for Good Award, Thought Leader of the Year, and IoT Executive of the Year. Nominations will begin Tuesday, August 10th through October 1st, 2021. A panel of IoT professionals will be selected as judges who will narrow down the finalists for each category, and the finalists will be announced on October 12th, 2021, where the public will have the opportunity to vote for the winners of each category through December 10th. The winners of this year's Industry Insights IoT Awards will be announced during the live event awards ceremony, which is part of the Industry Insights webinar series on December 16th. Nominate and vote for your favorite IoT product, service, or industry professional now, and register to attend the webinar on Thursday, December 16th at www.iotmktg.com. Best of luck to all the nominees, and we look forward to seeing you at the webinar. September 30th. Types of ed tech. learning, new forms of educational technology, and the use of VR in schools. Don't wait, register now to attend. Immersive technologies such as VR, AR, and MR have been growing in popularity, making it increasingly difficult to separate the physical and digital worlds. Not only are these extended realities being used for leisure and gamification, but also in business. From healthcare to manufacturing to retail to transportation, the rapid growth of these disruptive technologies will be a game changer for businesses looking to gain new perspectives on their operations and opportunities. Immersive technologies are taken to new levels by integrating concepts such as AI, predictive analytics, and digital twins. Join us on Thursday, October 28th, for Beyond IoT, where we will discuss how these new tech innovations are merging the physical, digital, and virtual worlds. Discussion points include the difference between VR, AR, MR, and XR, how immersive technologies are being used to create new opportunities for consumer entertainment, cost versus value comparisons for immersive technologies in business, AI-enhanced augmented reality, and where we see the industry headed. Don't wait, register now to join us on Thursday, October 28th for Beyond IoT. See you at the webinar. November 18th, as IoT Marketing and Industry Insights webinars present Smart Money 4.0. Our panel of experts, thought leaders, and solution providers will share how advanced technologies are creating a wealth of data that may be more valuable than cash itself. Discussion points include the advantages of using fintech for investment, blockchain applications for the financial sector, pros and cons of crypto, tokenization and the push for digital currency, and how IoT is used in banking. Register now to attend the Smart Money 4.0 webinar to learn how to prepare your finances for Industry 4.0 and how to choose IoT and other connected solutions for the financial and banking sectors that make dollars and cents. Don't wait. Register now to attend. Each year, IoT Marketing and Industry Insights webinars host a live virtual event to honor IoT ecosystem professionals and connected solution providers. After the success of its inaugural awards event last year, IoT Marketing's Industry Insights webinars will host the second annual 2021 Industry Insights IoT Awards on Thursday, December 16th with hosts Tiffany Nielsen and Steve Brummer. The Industry Insights IoT Awards have core values such as community, sustainability, efficiency, and education. The Industry Insights IoT Awards aim to gain public recognition for IoT professionals, companies, and products that have have demonstrated outstanding achievements, which have been instrumental in helping to digitally transform industries through IoT. The categories for this year's program include IoT Product of the Year, Best IoT Security Solution, Best Asset Tracking Solution, Space Tech Solution of the Year, Greenest IoT Solution, Digital Transformation Innovator of the Year, IoT Systems Integrator of the Year, the Tech for Good Award, Thought Leader of the Year, and IoT Executive of the Year. Nominations will begin Tuesday, August 10th through October 1st, 2021. A panel of IoT professionals will be selected as judges who will narrow down the finalists for each category, and the finalists will be announced on October 12th, 2021, where the public will have the opportunity to vote for the winners of each category through December 10th. The winners of this year's Industry Insights IoT Awards will be announced during the live event awards ceremony, which is part of the Industry Insights webinar series on December 16th. Nominate and vote for your favorite IoT product, service, or industry professional now, and register to attend the webinar on Thursday, December 16th at www.iotmktg.com. Best of luck to all the nominees, and we look forward to seeing you at the webinar. Host of Industry Insights webinars and CMO of IoT Marketing. IoT Marketing is an integrated marketing firm specializing in launching and fueling the growth of IoT and high-tech companies with end-to-end marketing, PR, and production services. Our team is in sync with the pulse of the IoT ecosystem. Early on, we saw the pandemic approaching and recognized the risk that it posed to trade shows. You see, prior to COVID-19, IoT Marketing was operating as a full-service marketing company, which relied heavily on trade shows to attract interest and demand for our clients. Like many other businesses, the pandemic disrupted our business model. But beyond that, we knew the trade show void posed a serious threat to the well-being and success of the entire industry. We also recognized the cancellation of trade shows would limit the availability of information for those looking to adopt IoT and other technologies. In an effort to keep the IoT ecosystem connected and provide a sense of community during such uncertain times, we chose to pivot and created a virtual community centered around monthly webinars. Over the past year, Industry Insights webinars has become a valuable and trusted source of information for thousands of technology professionals, ecosystem partners, and decision makers in over 28 countries. Industry Insights webinars focuses on education, bringing together a well-rounded group of subject matter experts, industry leaders, and solution providers for a high-level overview of how connected solutions are being implemented across each industry. Our team carefully selects a small, diverse group of business professionals for each webinar that we feel will complement each other for a powerful discussion. The content provides practical strategies and considerations for integrating new technology and Industry 4.0 solutions. We present the material in a way that brings value to all who attend, from tech novice to advanced number of sponsorship and advertising opportunities available. If you're ready to join the conversation and place your brand in front of our engaged audience, please fill out the corresponding speaker or sponsor request form. Once we have received your request, a member of our team will be in contact with you to schedule a time to discuss next steps. Thank you for your interest in participating in one of our upcoming Industry Insights webinars. We look forward to connecting with you. Hello, everyone. I'm Tiffany Nielsen here with Industry Insights Webinars Interviews, and I'm with Akil Turai. How are you? This is Beyond IoT, where we are going to be discussing immersive technology, in particular, augmented, virtual, and mixed reality. And the first person to join me today is Shreya Bansal. How are you, Shreya? Oh, we can't hear you, Shreya.
Yeah, hi.
Hello, how are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing.
Great. Well, we're so glad to have you join us. And Shreya is an XR designer. So Shreya, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm an XR designer. Right now I'm working at one of the big four companies, and I've done my master's in immersive media design from MIT Institute of Design, Pune, India. And during that time, I was also associated with a company called Immersive, based out of Hyderabad. So I was involved in designing VR experiences to train healthcare practitioners for cancer screening. I have also been a finalist in two global design competitions. One was RO Plastic Prize, and that is one of the projects also which I'm going to show now. And the other one was the VR AR design global design competition. And overall, I just feel kind of really proud to be one of the early members of this industry, as I can contribute to the growth as well as play a small part in shaping the way our industry is progressing. So I am just really intrigued and fascinated to see how much of an impact an XR experience can have on people. So yeah, happy to be here.
We're glad to have you. And your projects are very fascinating, and I'm glad we get a chance to show some of those before the webinar starts. Shreya will also be participating on the panel, and I see Zoe's here. Hi, Zoe.
Hi, Zoe.
Hello. Hiya. All right. Do you want to go ahead and show your video, Shreya?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. And hello, and thank you for joining the webinar to everyone in the audience. If you want to drop us a note and tell us where you're watching from, that would be amazing.
Let me know if the video is audible.
Did you know 91% plastic bottles are never recycled? It's a scary fact. Chances are many of us don't bother about recycling plastic bottles. We simply throw them in a trash can, which ends up in a landfill, adding to an already growing problem. Recycling is a great option, but some people do and some people don't. But what if recycling was incentivized? In other words, the plastic bottles we paid for pays us back. To make recycling a habit, I try to tap into the transactional mindset of people who want something tangible in return for their actions. Introducing Vendo, a vending machine that accepts plastic bottles as a currency and offers food, clothing, and beverage items in return. Vendo is intuitively gesture-driven. No more pressing buttons to get a product, just point and purchase. Here's how Vendo works. A consumer deposits a plastic bottle in Vendo's input slot, scans the barcode, and earns reward points that are then used to pay for the items. Reward points also generate social media badges that a vendor user can post online and spread awareness about their good deeds. Vendor would be placed at strategic high footfall points like malls, shopping centers, schools, colleges, business parks, railway stations, and airports, so that the users need not hold plastic bottles and can simply drop them in vendor after every use. On the partner app, we can even check the locations of vendor online so as to plan their deposits. While vendor users exchange plastic for products, partner NGOs and eco-oriented startups collect all the plastic bottles and create useful products from them. A win-win situation for all. When forget cash, go plastic.
Well, Shreya, thank you for sharing that. Unfortunately, we couldn't see the video.
Okay.
But it did sound interesting. So it was an invention that you came up with a team, or?
That was my own invention.
Your own invention. Okay. And so it was recycling plastic bottles, and then you use motion gesture to choose your product. So very cool concept. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Great. And good morning, Johannes. Good morning, Richard.
Good morning.
And we lost your video there, Johannes. And Richard, your audio's not working.
Yeah. So,
okay, there we go.
Can you hear me all right? I've got one of these. I've just bought a new microphone. Does it sound okay?
It sounds great. Yes.
Great.
And as we're just waiting to get started here, Johannes, I'm not sure what happened to your camera there. But while you're working that out, I thought I would maybe go over some recent news stories. We'll start with one, and then we'll hear from Johannes. He wants to do a welcome. But let's talk about some of these interesting stories. And I know one that you were talking about, Zoe, that I researched a little further, is the Facebook expansion where they're hiring 10,000 employees to build the metaverse. And I thought that one was really interesting. Do you want to maybe tell us a little bit about that, Zoe?
Yeah, so I mean, it was an announcement, I think it was last week actually, if not a little before. And the reason it stood out so much for me was because I was actually looking at Earth 2 at the time. That is a metaverse on an entirely different scale. And if you put the two together, Microsoft are employing 10,000 developers. The Earth 2 guys have 7 developers, but some very, very big ideas. But what they're saying is that they'll have a one-to-one Earth metaverse. And it was just like, no. No, I don't think so. You need, Microsoft have got these 10,000. They're buying artificial intelligence companies. The ability to make an effective metaverse requires a tremendous developer base, a tremendous effort if it's going to be any good. So I think we should probably talk about the word metaverse as well, because it is being bandied about quite significantly. And a lot of the metaverses are some sort of weird type of money as well. They're not blockchain. That's not synonymous with metaverse. And I think there is new vocabulary that we all need to consider and think about and understand what it is that we think we're saying and what's actually going on.
Yeah, it's on our agenda to talk about the metaverse later on. It's interesting because, Facebook at the moment are doing their Facebook Connect announcement.
Yeah.
They're about to release the new Quest headset. But the whole thing, their whole presentation is about the metaverse, or their interpretation of or Mark Zuckerberg's interpretation of the the metaverse. But yeah, it's just the next global communication medium. It's just an extension of the internet. It's part of the internet. There is only one in the metaverse, and that's what it's going to be. Hi, Nathan.
Hello,
You think
Nathan.
there's only one? That's very interesting, Richard.
Hey, everyone.
Like there's one internet, there's one metaverse, because the metaverse is part of the internet. Like there's not multiple internets, there's just one.
See, that's debatable as well, but anyway.
Yeah.
Well, before
I know,
we
everyone
go
has a
into
different
these debatable
perspective.
topics, let's hear from Johannes. Johannes wanted to do a personal welcome. He's the CEO and founder of IoT Marketing, who is presenting and powering this presentation that you will be experiencing today. Johannes?
Okay, guys. And so what I'll do is I'll do an introduction and then I'll go off stage. So because we're going to have a very busy stage today. So first of all, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to our audience and to the panelists, wherever you guys are. Welcome to Beyond IoT. And as always, let us know, and that's for all the people in the audience, let us know where you're from. We like to know where you're from. We like to know what countries we have in our webinar. And we have plenty. We have a couple of dozen countries typically in a webinar. It's the end of the month, and which means we have another webinar. We always have at the end of the month in the Industry Insights webinar series. And we're also 3 days away from Halloween. So what a better topic for this month than AR, VR, MR, XR. It's going to be spooky on Sunday, and I'm pretty sure there are going to be a lot of interesting AR, VR applications being utilized. Tiffany and her team did a great job again researching this broad topic. And we'll cover as much as we can in terms of the trends in this industry. And we will, as the panelists just mentioned, also touch on the metaverse. There's no way we cannot. Having said that, we are developing, apart from the webinar, we are developing more and more content. And because we know that our audience is always looking for information, trends in the industry, and look for information about emerging technologies. And this space, AR, VR, is definitely an emerging technology. It was a niche technology until now, but I would say basically driven by the pandemic, it is breaking out, and it's being utilized more and more. And that also explains, of course, that's why companies like Facebook are putting so much money in developing this technology and also in developing metaverse around this technology. What we've done is we've published white papers and we've added them to our shop. We're also working on a series of ebooks, and that will be published and pushed out as soon as they're ready. And we will also publish podcasts in November. So to our audience, stay tuned, check them out, and check them out as soon as they're available. We always have put a lot of research in our white papers, so they come with a price tag. Just be aware of that. Last but not least, this webinar obviously is in Beyond IoT, is an AR VR webinar. Next month, November, we'll talk about smart money 4.0, and we'll cover fintech. In December, we have our annual award show. And in January, we'll have our Emerging Tech 2022 show. So sign up for all our events and nominate anybody who you consider, any company or product that you consider needs to be nominated in the award category. So please check out the December landing page and find the category that's near and dear to your heart, and nominate the company that you think should be qualified in that category. So check out the white papers, check out the upcoming webinars, stay tuned because we're going to have a great webinar. It may be it's a longer webinar, but we're getting used to that. So our webinars now trend towards the 90 minutes to 120 minutes. And yeah, please sign up for all the upcoming webinars. Tiffany, that's all I have. Back to you.
Thank you, Johannes, and thank you to everyone at IoT Marketing, especially Jason Meyer, Jennifer Davis, and of course you, Johannes. All right. Well, as we're getting started here, I do have some interesting news to share with you that I was looking at that have to do with immersive tech. And so this one is pretty interesting. Have you heard of the Immersive Global Middle Ages Institute that's recreating worlds that no longer exist? No? It says the project called Immersive Global Middle Ages aims to create new ways of experiencing medieval history on a global scale. Even though these societies have faded from existence, supported by a $250,000 award from the National Endowment for the Humanities Institute for advanced topics in digital humanities. The project will teach participants to use advanced computer modeling and virtual reality tools to reconstruct global societies from 500 to 1500 CE. Pretty interesting one, right?
Yeah,
Wow.
I've certainly heard the idea before where they're looking where you can look at any street or city and see what it looks like, 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago or wherever you are in the world and be able to see how things have changed over time. There's a, what are they called? There's a company that you travel in a car and you wear a headset in the car and you look out the window as they're driving along and you're looking at what some fantasy world or historical world as you're driving along in the car. I can't remember what they're called, but they're quite successful. They're in the States somewhere.
Yeah, and they're even linking it to the car's movements as well, so that you don't get nauseous. It's really clever, but it's got this concept called elastic content, which means that it can run a piece of content, kind of keep repeating sections of it. But if the car suddenly turns, then it can make a turn in VR at the same point. Otherwise, you'd start to feel sick. So it's really clever concept where you can pin events like turning left or right into any type of content so that it always feels okay. Really, really exciting. So they're pioneering it in ride sharing and kind of Uber type situations where you just want to sit back and relax, and you might as well be kind of on Mars instead of in busy traffic.
And here's another good story that I thought was pretty interesting. So CSU, this is out of California, CSU to create an immersive tech hub to recruit Latinos and others into STEM fields. That could mean entering the building to view images of Latino STEM leaders and scanning a QR code for further information or experiencing an exhibit entirely through a mobile device. The project was funded through a $25 million allocation in 2021-2022 and California state budget, and a $25 million donation from Apple. It will work in collaboration with all 23 Cal State campuses and similar hubs across the nation. That sounds like a pretty expensive project. All immersive tech.
Wow.
So it'll be pretty interesting to see what happens there. And here's an interesting one with CES that is coming up again. I'm sure that this will be out there for people to experience. Hisense launches all new full array QLED TV this festive season. Hisense remains one of the most advanced brands in TV technology, having introduced next generation technology displays, including first true 8K 10-bit HDR dual cell TVs and 100-inch laser TVs. The brand's range of TVs boasts of an array of cutting-edge products from QLED 8K TV to the Vivid 4K TV to enable more immersive watching experiences and bring newer and richer entertainment to their customers' screens. Have you heard about those?
Yeah, I know Hisense. They're very good. I think they're a Chinese company. But the key with those displays, which we're still sort of really waiting for, is being able to produce 3D displays without needing any glasses. Because at the moment you need to either have a headset, there's still a very good experience, but they're still working on that true 3D screens that you can look at, and they're without needing any glasses. But I think it's still a few years away yet. But yeah, Hisense are one of the leading, along with Toshiba and Philips. That's leading display people. And they use micro displays in VR and headsets. They use micro LED displays, which are the latest technology they use in the high-end VR headsets.
And here's another one that I thought was interesting. Coppermine to open immersive technology gym in Towson, excuse me. The Mine is a boutique fitness concept that will offer its clientele, those who pay as much as $349 a month for membership, to 5 studios, an open gym, technology-driven strength and cardio equipment, infrared saunas, and a co-work space, along with personal training and physical therapy under one roof that incorporates immersive technology. It's pretty interesting there.
Yeah, fitness is another big area where this technology can be used, and to be able to do sports and stuff without actually having to be there.
And without having to be there, there's an event that just took place this past weekend in Las Vegas. It's called the Electronic Daisy Carnival. And the Insomniac, who's the presenters of the event, they actually created a digital space called the Insomniac World Party, which opened on October 20th. And it was with the festival scheduled to take place in the metaverse October 22nd through the 25th. The digital experience featured the same stages as the real life EDC, with music changing as attendees in the metaverse move from stage to stage. Fans are able to participate in games, check out the Camp EDC camping area, and join live meet and greets with the artists. So there's a lot going on with events and those becoming virtual. And I've got one last story for you. And this one is about AT&T. AT&T has teamed up with lifestyle and gaming brand 100 Thieves to build a virtual reality space geared towards socialization. The activation is the latest example of a brand wading into the so-called metaverse, a collection of shared online worlds populated by user avatars. The AT&T station is a spaceship-like arena with a movie theater, trivia games, billboards, and a clothing store full of stoppable merchandise. Maybe it was shoppable, but in this particular article, it does say stoppable. The experience can be accessed either with a VR headset or hand controllers, or by simply viewing through a desktop computer. So more about the metaverse. This is really getting to be a popular topic. Hello, Chris. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. So sorry I'm having these like crazy technical issues here. I even rented an entirely dedicated space to have this, but you know what? In this age, as technology progresses, there's more troubleshooting to be had. So apologies to be late. I'm trying to sort out my camera now.
No problem. Message Jason. I'll be happy to help. And so as we're waiting to get started here, let's all just go around and say where we're tuning in from today. Shreya, do you want to lead us off?
I am right now in India, Hyderabad.
Great. And I am in Las Vegas. And Richard, what about you?
I was just going to ask Shreya, which city in India are you from? Or where are you in?
Right now I'm in Hyderabad, but I am from Ahmedabad.
Right, yeah. I see. Yeah, I'm Richard Armstrong. I'm in London, in the UK.
And Nathan, where are you tuning in from today?
I am in Manchester in the UK.
Manchester in the UK. And what about you, Zoe?
I'm in Las Vegas, but I used to live in London. And I'm interested, Richard, is that a gin and tonic?
Yeah, it might be.
Oh!
Jeez, I didn't think I'd do. Yeah. No, it's just water with lemon.
Well already.
It is like it is 7 p.m. here.
Oh no, it's brilliant.
It is 7 p.m. Well, that's definitely excusable.
Yeah, I can't. It's 11 a.m., so it'll be too early for me. Just.
Yes.
It's 11:30 p.m. here.
Oh.
11:30. Well, thank you for staying up late for this, Shreya. And Chris, where are you tuning in from today? I think he's still working on that camera issue.
I think he's got microphone problems now.
Oh, he's lost the internet connection. Okay. Well, hopefully he'll be tuning back here back here just in a second. So with that, I'll go ahead and queue up the slide deck here. We've got just a few minutes left before we get started. And I'd love to hear from those in the audience where you're watching from today. So feel free to drop us a note in the chat.
There's people in India. There's people in...
And again, that Rise of Immersive Technology, AR, and VR white paper is available on our IoT marketing website. Oh, it looks like we have Chris back.
I'm back. Sorry, can you all hear me? I have over like 150 megs down, and it's still something going on.
That's okay.
I'm in Asheville, North Carolina, in the U.S.
Okay, great.
Yeah, sorry. Please continue.
No problem. All right, and I think we're still waiting for Abdul, but hopefully he joins here in a few minutes. So for the sake of time and the fact that we have so much information to cover today, I'm going to go ahead and get started and just tell you a little bit about what we're going to be covering in the webinar. So again, hello and welcome to the Beyond IoT webinar brought to you by Industry Insights Webinars and IoT Marketing. Thank you for joining us, and we are glad to have everyone here today, especially our amazing panel. And we have with us today founder and CEO of the Augmented Society Network, Zoe Camper. How are you doing today, Zoe?
Very good and very excited to be here.
And we also have Chris Farr, and he is the Director of XR Solutions and Commercial Programs at XR Pro, or have
an independent LLC of mine, all focused around extended reality services, but also integrating with the broader digital initiative with digital transformation, IoT devices, all that kind of stuff. But I primarily focus on the XR solutions for industrial.
Excellent. And we have Nathan Gaidani, and he is the Director of Business Development at Pixel Mill Digital. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well, thank you. Getting over a bit of a cough. Try to mute if I can, but got my glass of water, not gin. It would have been gin actually, but
Here in the States, it's a little early, right?
Correct, but I'm doing good.
All right, great. And Shreya Bansal, and she is an XR designer, and we heard a video earlier, but we'll put a link in there so that you can also check out the video at your own leisure for her invention. Good morning, Shreya. How are you?
Good morning. Actually, it's good night here.
Good night.
So, yeah,
Yes.
just super excited to be here, sharing the panel with everyone.
Wonderful. And we also have Richard Armstrong, and he is the director at Cassini Limited. How are you doing today, Richard?
Hi, I'm very well, thank you. It's great to be here. I'm really excited to be here. I'm in London in the UK. I'm actually an enterprise architect, and I'm a XR strategist. Help organisations get their XR strategies sorted and work in large enterprises to help them scale it out to large enterprises.
Great. And I see we've got New Delhi in the audience. I see India in the audience. If anyone else wants to chime in, we'll say hello to you as well. And next, and I'm Tiffany Nielsen as well. And next, let's take a look at the agenda for today. We're going to cover the objectives, challenges, technologies, and provide some forward-looking thoughts for what's happening with immersive technology. And we'll follow it up with Q&A. There's a section in the live chat where you can put your questions. That's very helpful if you can type them in there. And you can also chat with us and give us some of your thoughts in the chat there. So feel free to drop us a note there. And without further ado, Zoe Camper, will you lead us off and tell us more about your background and expertise?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Good evening, and so forth. I have a very long career because I'm getting old now. I started working for a subsidiary of Rolls-Royce. I used to manufacture marine camshafts, giant pieces of equipment with computers that filled rooms. I then trained as a teacher. I am a fellow of the Royal Society of Arts and Manufacture, which is a fabulous 260-year-old organisation based in the UK. I am the co-founder of the Augmented Society Network, which is why I'm interested and why I'm here. We look at all aspects of how technology augments for the good and the bad our employment charter.
I design and make clothes using encrypted fingerprinting to track. And I'm just very, very interested in technology and how the world works. And if you can combine that with art, then I am the happiest person in the world.
Great. Thank you, Zoe. And next, let's hear from Chris Farr. And Chris, can you tell us a little bit more about your background?
Absolutely. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, thanks. So my background, I did large-scale systems integration for ultrasonic equipment for healthcare systems in the US for about 4.5 years. I actually ended up making my own augmented reality solution for the training applications that I was doing for these nursing programs. Long story short, COVID hit. I ended up working with Third Eye Gen, the mixed reality smart glasses manufacturer. And from there, I moved on to a software manufacturer a software vendor called Avatar Partners. And they developed really, really sophisticated solutions integrating with ultrasonic systems, integrating with other devices as well. And they do a lot of really, really crazy research with XR. So from there, I actually ended up starting my own LLC, which is Analog, and I'm also the general manager at XR Pro here as well. And what we're focusing on is again, further training solutions within healthcare and manufacturing spaces. Anything that's really technically demanding for a product, or anything that's really challenging, has a high degree of risk associated with either training improperly or any maintenance failure. So we want to focus on better enabling and improving the performance of these training and maintenance applications. Then also, we really want to fit this into and help people understand where this fits into the broader digital transformation initiatives that these organizations might be now looking at. So we want to help kind of build that broader roadmap and how XR fits into the bigger picture instead of just a siloed solution. So that's kind of what we're focused on here. Excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris. And Abdul, are you with us? I see that he's here, but I don't hear his audio. Abdul, are you with us? All right, well, we'll come back to Abdul. Next, Nathan Gaidani. Nathan, can you tell us a little bit about your expertise?
Hey, yeah, I have a background in photography, digital imaging, design and technology. And then I guess for the last 6 years, I've specialized in immersive technologies, or XR as it's now generally called. I initially worked for one of the biggest architectural visualization companies in London and helped them get to the forefront of VR to kind of integrate that into their offerings. I then helped set up the first distribution for Vario in the UK. If you haven't heard of Vario, they make the kind of the best VR headsets that you can get at the moment. And now I work for a company called Pixel Mill Digital in Manchester, and we use immersive technologies to help all kinds of businesses in nuclear energy, rail, construction, town planning, to communicate more effectively with their own stakeholders and with the general public. So I'm very much on the kind of business and enterprise side, somewhat away from the entertainment side of VR.
Great, thank you, Nathan. And next, let's hear from Shreya Bansal. And I know that you already told us a little bit about your expertise, but if you could tell us again for those who weren't with us earlier, that'd be great.
So yeah, hi, I am an XR designer. So as a person, I'm a creative enthusiast and I'm super inquisitive and I'm really passionate about technology. And currently I'm working as an XR designer at one of the big four companies. And I've done my master's in immersive media design from MIT Institute of Design, Pune, India. And during that time, I was also working with a company called Immersive. It is a leading company in healthcare, and it is based out of Hyderabad. And I was moreover involved in designing VR experiences for training healthcare practitioners for cancer screening. And I have also been a finalist in 2 global design competitions, One was RO Plastic Prize, and the whole concept was displayed in Milan Design Week. And there was another one called VRARA Student Design Competition. This was again in 2020. So these competitions really helped me, connect with the global design community, interact with them. And right now, I'm still very early, I kind of feel very proud to be one of the early members of this industry, and I can contribute to the growth, as well as play a small part in shaping how our industry is progressing. So just fascinated and intrigued, and by the fact that how much of an impact an XR experience can have on the people. So be it training in public healthcare, or inculcating empathy, or doing something really crazy with product trials. So it is the best multi-sensory medium in the market at present. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Shreya.
Yeah.
And we will get to the value exchange portion of the conversation here shortly, where we'll talk about how do you see the ROI from these different endeavors with immersive technology. But first, let's hear from Richard Armstrong. Richard, can you tell us a little bit more about your background?
Yes. Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's great to be here. I've originally come from Melbourne in Australia, and I started my IT career. I've been working in IT and technology for over 30 years now. And I started my career in Australia. And then about just a bit over 20 years ago, I moved to London, where I live at the moment. And I've been working in IT infrastructure and architecture for all of that time, and more recently in cloud computing in AWS and Azure, and working for large enterprises and the government as well. I've worked both in private and public sector. More recently, in the last 5 years or so, part of my job as an enterprise architect, I help organizations set their IT strategy and set their roadmaps for the next coming years that are coming up, and help them invest in the right technologies coming up in the future. And one of those is in immersive computing, because I see that as the sort of the next major change in computing. When I started, it was all PCs, and then it went to laptops, and then to mobile phones, and more recently wearable computing. But immersive computing, I believe, is going to be the next major transformation in technology, and it's one of those things that I want to help organizations do. I've got a very good insight as to what's going to be big next, and this is one of those things. And so I'm very happy to be here on the panel and participate in the discussion.
Thank you, Richard. And let's backtrack here to Abdul. How are you doing, Abdul? Abdul? We can't hear you. We can't hear you. Okay, try to fix the audio connection, and then I'm going to come back to you, Abdul, because we can't hear you right now. Okay, skipping forward, I'm Tiffany Nielsen, and I'm the host of Industry Insights webinars. I'm also the CMO of IoT Marketing, and my background stemmed from events, was how I first kind of came about even the thought of immersive experiences, and that's what really drove me to kind of go with this topic for the webinar today. And the more I learn about technology, the more I see how it's just growing at such a fast rate. It's getting so advanced, and there was a time when you could choose whether you embrace technology or not, and now it's at a point where it's just a part of our lives. So I'm extra happy to be able to bring this series to you and present these rather complicated topics, a new industry every month. So thank you for joining us today. And if you like any of the slides or the presentation and you need help with yours, IoT Marketing does offer those services. So please reach out to us. And Abdul still looks like he's having issues with his connection. So we'll get, Abdul, are you there? Still can't hear you. Okay, we'll circle back. Section 1, the objectives. So why use immersive technology? What is the benefit? And for the state of the industry, they're calling it the imagination age. And I love that term. I think it's spot on. And now that we're embracing immersive technology to improve communication and enhance experiences, it's a very, very cool time to be using this technology, either as the end user or in business cases. There are plenty of applications for it. And so for this one, let's start out with Nathan. And you've been in the industry for over 25 years. How has it evolved over those years? You're muted.
Yeah, I was racing to click that. So I've been. I studied digital imaging some years ago, and I've been involved in all of this stuff one way or another. I would say the kind of my first involvements with this kind of thing were kind of web-based 3D environments. There's one popular one called Second Life, which everyone was getting into way back, and this is a kind of metaverse to some extent, a kind of persistent 3D world that many people, hundreds of people, could jump into and kind of hold events and have kind of properties and all the rest of it. And the company I work for at the moment actually helped other companies to hold events and seminars and things in Second Life. That's kind of died down quite a lot now. But we then saw a lot of bigger companies using projection environments. So, kind of Second Life was still only on a screen. But then if you wanted a more of an immersive solution, then there were these things called caves, which was like small rooms with projections on all the walls, and you could go into those. And so the rise of game engines, Unity and Unreal are the kind of the two most common ones that people know about, and that really kind of pushed the kind of idea of dynamic real-time visualization, allowing people to manipulate complex 3D models in real time. We started to see AR appear on smartphones, even if it was just with kind of Snapchat filters and things like that. But it's the early days of AR. And then VR headsets started to appear. I mean, we have had VR headsets going back 20 years or more, but they were always massively expensive and complex. So it's really only since around 2015 that we've seen kind of all the technologies that have gone into smartphones and what have you to suddenly go into VR headsets to make VR headsets available to the masses. So that was a kind of a big turning point for the VR industry. And then we have more sophisticated AR in the form of headsets that can and give us true 3D AR. We call it mixed reality, and it allows graphics to be placed at kind of at various depths and to be occluded by real world objects. And then now we're seeing immersive solutions with IoT integration, with AI linking up, and collaborative platforms that allow multi-user environments, allow many people to kind of look at things at the same time. So it's getting more and more exciting, more and more flexible, and easier for everyone to use, and it just keeps getting better.
Thank you, Nathan. And I was reading an article, and it had a great title. It said it was the rise and fall and rise of VR. And that's kind of where we are, that, it was being used for gaming, but I think because of COVID, it's definitely accelerated the business cases. It's accelerated the use of communications and engagement. Zoe, where do you see the industry going? You're muted.
The rise and fall, it's kind of mirroring artificial intelligence in a way, in that we all get excited and then we have the winter. There are still some large barriers to entry. However, what I would suggest is that the figures are very compelling for entering into this. So if you take, for example, there are approximately 171 million active VR users at the moment. That represents something like just under 4% of the 4.3 billion internet users worldwide. That is a tiny percentage of something that we all eventually got involved with. And in some form or another, that I see happening at some point. If you look at the figures that are touted, I've got a statistic from, I think it's Super Data. So there's some statistics coming from all sorts of different parties. And what I would just say is that these are pre-pandemic. I have not got post-pandemic figures. But Super Data basically say that in 2019, the industry was this is the consumer industry, worth somewhere in the region of 6.2 billion, is projected to grow to 16.3 billion by 2022. Now that is a very attractive proposition if you take the percentage of uptake as well. I wonder if augmented AR really might be something more easy for people or industries, companies to get involved with, because half your world is built. The production costs on good VR are enormous. If you want to do something really well, it's like, producing a film. Every detail has to be considered. So maybe the future's brighter for AR, and maybe we've got a slightly longer wait for VR, but there is no way this is not going to happen. We are on the wrong side of a flat screen, and I am bored to tears. I want to get in there. So, and I'm not the only one.
Thank you, Zoe. And Abdul, is your audio working now?
Yeah, I'm audible now.
Okay, great. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. So can you just go to my slide? Yeah, thank you. Sorry for this inconvenience. So yeah, glad to be here. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity to share my knowledge, expertise in immersive technology. So my background, I started my journey as one of the youngest physics professor and leading speed painter artist in India. And I started working, I was inspired by the science fiction character Tony Stark in Iron Man. And I started working on holographic tech since last 5 years. And after 5 years of intense R&D, we came up with world's most futuristic holographic interactive technology invented at my venture Holo Abdul and Holo Shiksha. So that's about my experience in immersive tech. And also I'm an international speaker. I have advised more than 100 institutions and corporates internationally on immersive tech, innovation, education, and entrepreneurship. So that's a bit about me. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And also hello to Florida and North Carolina, I see in the audience. And back to what is immersive technology? Abdul, will you tell us what you feel immersive technology is?
So if we see the immersive technology, understanding the fundamental definition of the immersive tech. So the immersive tech is derived from the word immersive, and immersive means involving more than one sense. We all have 5 physical senses. So any experience which involves more than one sense is an immersive experience, right? So let's say if you are, doing a practical experimentation on any scientific experiment, even that is an immersive experience. So, but using any technology to achieve that is what is called immersive tech, and that is what I think we are going to discuss a lot today. And to understand more about immersive technology in its different types and understanding. So, but apart from that, also just one point, if we can just, I want to share that immersive technology is derived from immersive experience. And remember, immersive technology is just a small bubble. It's just a spot of the bigger bubble, which is immersive experience. So yeah, that's just a broader perspective we all need to see, looking at the immersive experience as a whole.
Thank you, Abdul. And Richard, another term that's frequently thrown around when it comes to immersive technology is the 360 space. Can you tell us what you feel immersive technology is and how it relates to the 360 space?
Yeah, I think, if we take the actual term itself, what is immersive technology? It's a number of different things. It's one of them is 360 photography, which are cameras that can take exactly what it says. You take one picture and you've taken a 360-degree view of that picture, and then you can use another piece of immersive technology, such as a VR headset, and look at that 360 view as though you're standing where the person who took the 360-degree photo was, and look around. But you can also use another immersive device, which could be a simpler one like a laptop, where you, for instance, go to Google Street View and you look at a street in Google Street View and move around and look left and right. You're in an immersive environment, but you're looking at a 2D screen. So it's lots of different devices. There's other ones that are augmented reality glasses, which allow you to see the real world around you, but also see 3D representations of particular objects within the space in front of you, and it's projected in front of you. And you can walk around it in what we call 6 degrees of freedom, where you can look up or down or left or right or forward or backward, and you can move around a particular object. So I see immersive technology as lots of different things. It can even be your mobile phone. A lot of people won't even realize they've already used augmented reality with their phone, where they can use certain apps to look at objects through the camera of their phone. Anyone who's used Snapchat and used the pictures that are on Snapchat where you can change your face or whatever, that's augmented reality as well, using just a simple device like a mobile phone. Well, not so simple, but we accept them as simple devices. And so they're the most prolific device in the world, because there's over 2 billion or 3 billion mobile phones in the world that can use augmented reality. And they're the most common device in the world that can use the technology today. So people might not even realize that they've got one of these devices in their pocket already. So any modern phone can do that. But I see the technology still in its infancy. I look at it back as when the first mobile phones came out, they were like a brick. They were these big chunky things. And that's how I see what, the headsets we have today. They're very complex, but they're still quite chunky things. And in the future, they're going to be much smaller and more lightweight. So yeah, I see the whole industry just in its infancy, just like the early 90s when mobile phones came out for the first time.
Thank you, Richard. And Shreya, if there's anything you'd like to add about what immersive technology is, and possibly share with us one of the biggest benefits that you see of using immersive technologies, that would be great.
Yeah, so I feel to simply explain immersive technology, it is anything that engages you. It makes you feel like you're a part of that experience. So it's basically extending reality or creating a new reality by leveraging the whole 360 space. So users can literally look into any direction, left, right, any direction, and you'll still be able to see the content. It is also about, or you can create isolated, completely new virtual spaces, virtual worlds, or you could even blend digital or virtual content in your own physical space. So we are actually no longer bounded by the sizes of like 2D screens to be 2D screens. So, and one of the biggest benefits to look at for immersive technology is that it provides an artificial and digitally created content, and it kind of replicates the whole real life scenario, so that new skills and techniques can be learned and perfected. So there's no time limit of practicing. Okay, you can actually be an active participant, and you kind of influence the outcomes, and it offers a risk-free and a safe space for you to learn. So imagine if for a surgery you had to make a 5-inch incision, and you can do that on a real body like 100 on 100 times, right? But you can do that in VR. So also it gives you a distracted free space. You can completely focus, and overall with virtual reality as well, you can create a standardized content. So when it comes to learning, that is kind of important when there is a specific protocol that needs to be followed. So I feel these are one of like really good benefits of using immersive tech. And also you can personalize each experience for one person. So that's really good.
Thank you, Shreya. And Chris, can you tell us more about how immersive technology is used for simulated training and education and just really increasing the learning retention?
Sure. So, just by nature of adding more senses to learning something, you're activating different parts of your brain. You're interacting with items that may have originally just been text or 2D, and now you can manipulate them. You can really have a broader perspective and bigger idea around, what a process looks like, what a concept is, and what that means to be in sometimes a virtual world or an augmented product directly in front of you. Now, what this means is we're able to really dive in a little bit deeper. We're able to animate these objects and these environments where we can start poking around it a little bit more. It's more interactive. Not only do we have a better idea of how these products or these environments exist, but now we can simulate how we can interact with them, right? And by doing so, we're able to really focus on these complicated tasks or concepts in a safe way, right? So, say for example, if we're doing fire training, right? We can't go light a building on fire and run in, but for firemen, if we can do this with augmented or virtual reality, right? We can simulate these fire scenarios. We can introduce other haptics, whether that's gloves or smoke, and we can really start building some pretty sophisticated stuff that may not be entirely real, but real enough that it might kind of strike that fear into you if something goes wrong in this process, or just help you reinforce different ideas and different ways to do something. And you can do that by gamification, by other feedback, by integrating other data as well. So you can see the repercussions or advances to an item and to a step. So there's really a lot of different ways, and there's so many use cases where this stuff is applicable. And we're, as many of you mentioned already, we're just in the infant stages. We're just really learning how to use this stuff and use it for what we have. And it's pretty sophisticated now, but we have a long way to go. The devices are going to get more efficient, smaller, better battery life. And all this is going to significantly impact the sophistication of these solutions, so we can really really accelerate a lot of learning and development and training procedures.
Great. Thank you, Chris. And Richard, in one of our previous conversations, you mentioned some benefits, including reducing travel costs and the emissions footprint. Can you tell us more about those?
Yeah, so obviously with any sort of immersive training, you can negate the requirement to get the training, the people you're training, to the place that you're to your training classroom or to the place that you're going to have. And the beauty about immersive training is that you can, with a headset, you can be sitting in an immersive classroom. The lecturer can stand in front of you and do the training and demonstrate to you in 3 dimensions whatever, say it's mechanical training where you're learning to maybe repair an aircraft engine or some complex device like that. They can show the device to everyone in the class in a 3-dimensional environment, and they can be anywhere in the world. And that's the beauty of it, is that you won't need for those people to travel to see that particular engine. Say it is an aircraft engine. There's only a few factories in the world that actually have those, so that they can show people in real life what those parts look like. And today it costs a lot of money because they do have to fly the people to those locations, and that negates the need for all the carbon emissions required to get all those people to the classroom or to the place. But conversely to that, you can get education to places in the world where people cannot travel and have no way of traveling. They might be from poor countries or poor backgrounds where they can't get to a place or a university or wherever. And because the devices that enable you to participate and immerse in this are getting cheaper and cheaper all the time, it's far easier to get the devices to the people rather than getting the people to come to the training centres or the universities. So it helps with the green agenda and the overall health of the world and all of the negating of all the carbon emissions that might be used up by having to put people there. The other thing, it costs a lot of money to actually set up training for large machinery. Now, this is mainly the manufacturing industry, but it costs a lot of money, and the same with the medical industry as well. This same example for that, it's very expensive to just have the machines for training when you can show them in 3D, and the people get the recall of learning much more effectively, and they remember everything much more effectively in a 3D environment. So there's endless advantages to immersive training.
Great. And Nathan, another benefit of immersive tech is that it limits exposure to dangerous environments. Can you tell us more about that example?
Yeah, so for a lot of industrial training requires people to go into situations which can be very dangerous. It could be mining. We work with nuclear decommissioning. These are kind of radioactive places. You could be training people on using cranes and working at dangerous heights, or even what to do when accidents happen in these environments, which then takes it to another level where not only is it already a potentially dangerous situation, but you're trying to show people what happens when an accident happens. Now, that's very difficult to do in real life, but in virtual reality, it's possible to actually show people the ramifications of things going wrong, and that person will then have a very strong and vivid memory of the scenario, and they'll have that kind of real memory from having feel like they've been in that situation. So it's a very good way of training people for kind of dangerous situations, for health and safety, or just generally kind of dangerous working conditions where you normally need quite a lot of experience before you're really safe in these environments.
Thank you, Nathan. And Zoe, with all these benefits, why have we put up with the flat screen for so long?
Well, I think it's the most easy, it's the brightest, it's the most functioning way of experiencing digital content to date. I think if we go back to, is it Ivan Sutherland's Sword of Damocles, the equipment, and that's an American scientist who developed a headset that actually had to be suspended from the ceiling. That was in 1965. So it's a hard nut to crack. And the convenience and the ability to carry your laptop, for example, I think has kept us on this side of the screen. So I think it's probably just convenience, really, costs, all of the usual things that get in the way of something really, really fantastic.
Thank you, Zoe. And next, let's take a look at these common terms in extended reality. It can get very confusing. There's a lot of initials here. We've got VR, AR, XR, MR. Really, XR is the umbrella that encompasses virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. But Nathan, can you tell us more about the differences between these terms?
Yeah, sure. It's not as complicated as it can seem. I think a lot of people, and we're probably guilty too, but kind of like coming up with new names for things. But there's the main two, the first two, virtual reality and augmented reality. Virtual reality means completely replacing what we see around us with something virtual, and that virtual content could be kind of captured from the real world, or it could be completely computer generated. And augmented reality means adding kind of graphics into our view of the world. So that could be holding up a phone or a tablet and using the camera on the phone or tablet to show us the real world, and then adding extra information, extra graphics into that view. Both of them use some method of tracking your movement, so it's not just a static kind of in one position, but with both systems they're tracked. So as you move about, you're seeing new information according to where you're now pointing. So they're the two main types. Mixed reality is a kind of high-end version of AR, where it's more likely to be a head-mounted display, some kind of headset like this, which is a HoloLens, sits on your head, and first of all, it's true 3D, stereoscopic, so that makes it a lot better to start with, and also is more likely to have some system of occlusion where objects in the real world can even occlude the virtual objects, and that requires some understanding of depth in the real world so that it knows where to show the virtual things and where not to show the virtual things. So as you say, XR is an umbrella term to mean any type, so we don't have to keep saying VR, AR, MR. HR and the immersive 3D are just other terms that get thrown around. HR to me is just adding in more and more kind of ways of making it real. More sensors. There's headsets that now measure your heart rate and pupil dilation, all kinds of things like that just make it more and more responsive to your state of being or your cognitive load. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
Thank you, Nathan. And Richard, can you tell us more about what you feel hyperreality is? I know that it's, you can't distinguish the difference between the real versus the digital, but can you tell us more?
Yeah, and that was just an extension of what Nathan was saying. To hyperreality refers to using more and more sensors like eventually we'll be able to do smell and touch and using haptics to create further sensors into the immersive world. There are already headsets out today. They're very expensive ones, like from Vario, which are very high resolution, and you cannot tell the difference between whether something is real or it's an artificial animation. They have what they call a mixed reality headset, which is basically a VR headset with two high resolution cameras in front of that headset, so it can see the real world, and it can mix the real world with a full immersive environment as well. But it also measures depth, and they put a LiDAR scanners, which are like laser scanners, on the front of the headset, so it can measure depth very accurately. So when we say occlusion, people might not know what that means. It's when you put a physical object in front or behind of a virtual object, it makes the virtual object feel more real because it feels like it's really there. That is, my interpretation of hyperreality. But it's just basically the next the next generation of immersive computing. It'll get more and more indistinguishable between the real world and the virtual world, which may be very confusing for some people.
Sounds like we're moving into the Matrix.
Yeah.
I'd like to actually add on to that.
Ready Player One, there's another one like that.
Yeah, so I think you just hit a really good point, is that, from like this industrial standpoint with hyperreality, integrating these other sensors is going to only make these simulations more and more accurate, right? So I think that's one really cool way to think about hyperreality from, this training standpoint. From the consumer standpoint, we think about hyperreality, putting on the smart glasses, walking down the street and seeing so much information, right? That actually becomes, inhibitive. It inhibits your perception. It's almost like, you're drinking too much, right? There's too much information. It inhibits you to make the right decisions or maybe even see properly, right? And this doubles down, to the industrial side, right? If you put too much information, whether that's real-time telemetry data, too much of anything, and users' point of view, they're overwhelmed and they can't complete the task. So I really like how Richard put it, and I hadn't really thought about that before, but the hyper reality being, let's integrate the right sensors or the right feedback to make it hyper in a way that's more accurate and more effective to the simulation. So I just want to make that comment.
Thank you, Chris. And Abdul, can you tell us a little more about Immersive 3D?
Sure. So if you see among all these, you can identify all these different types of immersive technologies into three major categories. Like first is the virtual VR, where you use a headset to enter the virtual world, but by disconnecting with the real world. In augmented reality, it's the blending of virtual world and the real world, and the examples are Pokemon Go, Instagram filters, Snapchat. These are some of the examples of the augmented reality. And on the other hand, extended reality is sometimes also called as XR, which is the extended version of augmented reality. So it's the same, that it blends the real world and the virtual world without disconnecting from the real world, but it utilizes headset, just as how Nathan says showed one product, which is Microsoft HoloLens. So Microsoft HoloLens is one of the best example of extended reality headset. Now there is one more, which is immersive 3D. I would call it a immersive 3D display technologies, which are coming up now. So one of the example is Looking Glass Factory. You can have a look at, where it doesn't require any headset or eyewear to experience 3D. So these are different technologies based upon different requirements and needs and experiences. Every technology, every different type of immersive technology has its own pros and cons, has its own values. So these are not like replaceable to each other, but I would say complementary to each other. So that's my insight on the different types of immersive technology and how they're placed right now in the world and how they're developing. And some of the more advanced versions which are coming up is web immersive, which runs through browser, and holography, which we'll be discussing later.
Perfect. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these industries that are using this technology. And I do see a lot of questions coming in the chat, so we will get to those at the end of the webinar. So stick around for that. When it comes to the industries using it, I'm sure many are familiar with the gaming example, and it's also used for sports and entertainment. Zoe, can you tell us a little more about those applications? And if you want to touch on the more adult entertainment, that's fine too.
Yeah, not because I know, because I researched it for this. Yeah, let's be clear.
Yes.
So I think the entertainment side of things is probably the most compelling. My absolute favorite is the Fortnite's Marshmallow gig. He played, is it Christopher Comstock? Big DJ, big here in Las Vegas until relatively recently. He played a concert inside the game. So you had to go to the concert. He played to 10 million people. And what was incredibly well created there was, firstly, the need to be there. And secondly, the fear of missing out. So you have a very engaged user base, and then you add a premium experience to it. And what they did during the gig, which was absolutely phenomenal, was they took off gravity. So at some point, for those people that were actually there in virtual reality, everyone floated up at the same time, unbeknownst to them that was going to happen. That utterly visceral virtual experience changed the whole thing. It was something that everybody enjoyed together, and the need to be there and to experience that and then to talk about it was absolutely phenomenal. So it is possible to create wonderful online virtual experiences and create something that has emotion to it as well. Now, on the other side of things, for the more the adult scene, the pandemic has enabled some of those companies to grow. And excuse me for this, but VR bangers, for example, grew by 30%. Now, they're faced with a dual challenge in a way. One, more people were at home and were able to experience whatever it was that they wanted to experience. And those experiences are incredibly rich. You have what are called point of view services, where you're literally the person. But the other problem with that was that more people were at home. So your whole family's there. So it was a two-way thing with virtual experience in the adult world. Some of the other providers didn't see that growth. But the development in that, and you're going to have to excuse me here as well, because I may say something that I'm not truly sure I understand. So stop me if this is an interesting word, but teledidonics is a word that is used extensively in the adult industry, which is for devices that are used in combination with the virtual reality experience. And these are growing in popularity and becoming very much part of the adult catalogue. So that falls in line with increasing the experience. I guess haptic would be a word that we might otherwise use. So I don't know if that's a word that's familiar to the experts in this field, the experts in virtual reality. The rest we'll keep to ourselves. But that need to experience something more fully is very, very much alive and kicking, which also brings on the issue of the actual digital entity, if you like, and whether that entity has rights has also become an interesting conversation. I became aware of a company from New Zealand called Soul Machines, for example, who are creating what they're referring to as the digital workforce. All of these things come with new boundaries, new horizons, and new things to sort out. And how we interact with that is going to be a very, very interesting future. But I guess the entertainment's the most exciting one of all shapes and sizes. Jean-Michel Jarre, for example, we went to a concert in Notre Dame in Paris. Obviously, we're here in Vegas. Phenomenal experience when we're all, shut up indoors. Will that trump a real experience? For me, maybe it will. If people are going to put their camera phones up and I've got to see it through that, maybe actually that will be my premium experience.
Thank you, Zoe. And Chris, can you tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in manufacturing and healthcare?
Sure. So, for manufacturing, it's pretty straightforward. We've kind of been covering a lot of that, and that's, these simulated step-by-step procedures, whether it's for maintenance or for training. But another big part of it too, and I think the easiest barrier to entry, which I think Richard and Nathan touched on before, is the remote assistance aspect. And I think being able to, ship out a headset instead of an engineer can save valuable time, is much safer, right? I think the safest way to get from A to B is to not go at all and to go virtually, So I think that's the biggest use case, and the easiest one for most companies to start playing around with the technology is the remote assistance aspect. So get a HoloLens, get a new eyes device, a pair of smart glasses, which are really coming down in price significantly, and they can be tethered to a phone. You increase the battery life, and a lot of them are 5G compatible, and you can have really low latency on a lot of stuff. So I think that's a really good place to start. for healthcare, it's getting really complicated. And I think healthcare is behind in the adoption for a couple of reasons. A, healthcare is really complicated to begin with. B, it's really difficult to build something for healthcare that's compliant around whatever that use case may be, whether it's equipment or software. And C, I mean, they have so many requirements, and you have to have a really high degree of accuracy, right? It costs a lot to build this stuff. And I think for something to be impactful enough for them to say, yes, we want to adopt this, we want to integrate it, and we need to do it on a standardized level, it needs to have the impact, it needs to show it. So I think there's a lot of hesitancy to get into healthcare because it's a really high risk, right? So most of the bigger companies are starting to get into it. There's actually a few healthcare related ones that I think that are coming out sooner rather than later, and that's going to be around training simulation for nurses, a lot of empathy training, learning how to do certain things like pick lines for patients. I think right now that this easiest barrier to entry is probably going to be how to take care of patients, or going through nursing school in certain ways. So I think there's a couple different aspects, but it's a really complicated road there. So, but things are ramping up, so it's looking good.
Thank you, Chris. And Richard, I know you have experience with healthcare as well, but can you tell us a little bit more about how this is used in transportation?
Not so much transportation, but so this is mainly healthcare and training. One of the other, as I was saying in the example before, when healthcare training is done in 3D or using both augmented or virtual reality, it can enable the people to be trained and understand very complex items like a heart or any organ of the body, to be able to comprehend how that actually works. Always up until now, people have just looked at photos, or they might have seen some videos or whatever. Now they can interact. There's lots of software out there today that look at the whole human body, and they can take parts out of the body and in 3D and be able to manipulate and see inside organs, see where blood rushes, what direction blood rushes through veins, all of that. And it gives the students a much better understanding. And most importantly, and this is what they're going to be hoping to do, is they're going to be able to reduce the amount of time it takes to train to be a doctor. Today it's about 7 years or so. They think that, using this technology, they'll be able to bring it down to, say, 4 years or maybe 5 years. And even that will really help the whole of the medical industry. They also are developing, this is being developed now, remote operations, where you might have someone in a remote place, and you might only have 1 or 2 surgeons in the world that know how to do a particular operation. And that surgeon can stay where they are, say they're in London or they're in New York or wherever, and they can help operate the surgery of someone on the other side of the world. And that will really help in being able to get, emergency surgery done for people who can't access these doctors. Some of these doctors are very few and far between, and they're specialists in their particular field. And it not only goes with healthcare, it's the same with manufacturing and in the industrial industry. As Chris was saying, the remote access aspect of using industrial repair and industrial manufacturing, you only need the 1 or 2 experts that can be anywhere in the world, and then you can have the people who want to learn how to be the expert out in the field. And so it's cheaper for organizations to have 1 expert in the middle and hundreds of people learning out in the field with a headset. So this allows them, if they're wearing an augmented reality headset, they can see, the expert can see what the user's seeing, what the actual repairer is seeing, and he can guide them to tell them exactly which bolt to undo, which screw to undo. And it's the same with surgery as well. Being very delicate, and these devices are extremely accurate down to less than a millimeter. So it's very, very easy to pinpoint exactly what any learner would have to do. And at the same time, those learners are learning how to do something much faster and much more rapidly than they normally would in a classroom reading a textbook, for instance. So, and just one other thing, I just wanted to touch on another example of entertainment industry. There's a platform called Sansar, which has lots of remote worlds, and it has remote nightclubs, and you can go into a nightclub and you're represented as an avatar, and you can dance with people in the same nightclub, and they might be from all over the world, from different parts of the world, and you can interact with them in that virtual world, and it looks exactly like a nightclub inside, the same sort of thing. Another one was done with the Burning Man. There's a big festival that happens. You might know about it, Tiffany, in the States, which is a massive annual festival. Now, this year and last year, they couldn't have it because of COVID. So they set up a virtual Burning Man, and they had thousands of people from all over the world, and they created a virtual Burning Man. And it was like that you were standing there with all these people. Yes, they were all avatars, but you could go and see shows. You could do all the same things as if you were at Burning Man, which is in the middle of the desert. So that was another great example of how they're using entertainment on this platform as well. So,
well, Richard, you called me out on that. I've been to both the actual event and the one that's virtual, and okay. It is really amazing to see that they can recreate those real experiences virtually. Another cool example for transportation is something that's happening in downtown Las Vegas, and it's one of the first true digital twin cities. And so they're using it for transportation as one of the main focuses, where they're using all the different IoT data to recreate it, and that they can see a simulation of the traffic and provide better traffic patterns and that type of thing. So that's also with David Knight from Turbine. So you might want to take a look at that. There's also logistics, energy, utilities, and mining, retail. The smart mirrors are amazing. Aerospace and defense. We obviously can't cover all of these, or else we can't get to the rest of the topics in the webinar. But construction and architecture. Nathan, did you want to touch on that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we've talked a lot about training as being a kind of, and it is a big area. But for people that are creating things that don't exist yet, it's always been difficult to really communicate those plans to other people. You can do kind of 3D models and architectural kind of computer generated images, but they don't give people a full understanding. So virtual reality and just immersive 3D real-time models are transforming this whole industry. We're seeing situations where people are kind of communicating a lot earlier on in the process what the finished design is going to look like, allowing people to walk around a building as if it was finished before anything's actually been started, and that way you're getting much better feedback earlier on in the process, and that could be very important feedback, like, well, that's not going to work like that, that's going to be too small, too big, and not the kind of feedback you get when you just show people plans for a building or a few chosen kind of choice images. And this is what you want very specific feedback as quickly as possible, because otherwise you have to do do-overs, you have to kind of rip things out, and it's very costly. So we're seeing a lot less mistakes being made, things being done exactly as people expected. People walk into a finished building and it's exactly as they wanted it. It's not, oh, this isn't quite what I wanted. So in architecture and construction, it allows a lot less mistakes to be made, and everyone to be on the same page. You've got many different parties all trying to work together, and the first thing you want to be able to do is make sure everyone's kind of on the same page with what you're discussing. you know, a 3D model can be used in many different ways. You can use it for discussing security. You can use it for discussing kind of energy efficiency, as many different topics as you want. But bringing it all together in one, as you mentioned, digital twin allows everyone to kind of talk about the things they need to talk about using the same asset, which is also very cost effective.
Thank you, Nathan. And as much as I would love to go into some of these other examples, I do want to focus on education. Abdul, can you tell us how immersive technology is being used in education?
Sure. So I've been working on immersive technology for education since last around many years, and one of the interesting insight I would like to share. So in education, it's a big potential, but it's the adaptability in education is low because of the certain barriers. With potential application is number one, teaching. So let's say right now during so I will just share one of my experience as well. So let's say during the pandemic, many of these preschool children have not visited zoo, and all the learning is happening online, and the students are not able to have the experiential learning which used to be there in physical spaces, like visiting a zoo or any kind of field visit, and students are missing that a lot. And that's where immersive technology is coming into the picture, where it is removing those barriers, and it is making physical virtual experiences possible at their home. So everyone is at the home. Teacher is taking all the students to a virtual tour at a zoo or any farmland, etc. This is one example. And second is on the practical learning, like experimentation, like learning different types of experiments. So one example we are personally working on is making a kind of holographic science lab where students can conduct any kind of experiment without any kind of hazard or not having all the safety issues. So it removes the barrier of the creativity. It enhances you, gives you wings, just like Red Bull. So, and one of the and also it is necessary in education. Whenever you want to implement, it has to be a proven impact, a proof of value. And that is why around 2.5 years ago, I personally worked in a experimental research pilot project where we successfully were able to improve students' visualization, learning, retention by 24% in 70% less time. And this is also one of the biggest pain point in education, that the curriculum is vast, time is too less, and hence the room of creativity as well. And I think immersive technology can compress that time burden and give a tool, amazing, powerful tool for the teachers and students as well. And you can also explore about HOTS development. It is also right now one of the 21st century emerging need, that if you see majority right now, one of the biggest problem because of the rising technology is that students are spending less time on thinking, spending more time on just watching things at a lazy, becoming more and more lazy, and hence that HOTS development, higher order thinking skill is lacking a lot. And this is not just a problem among the teenagers, but in adults as well. So I think education as a whole, in schools, in training, corporate, industry, training, everywhere it's a part of. And I think immersive technology is really going to bring a revolutionary impact in the education and training. It's going to be a slow and steady process, but it's a way to go.
Thank you, Abdul. And I would love to cover how it's being used for nonprofits and causes. There's a great example with Nat Geo where they're able to show what's happening in some of the areas where there's problems with migrations and things, but we don't have too much time. So let's go into some of the challenges concerning this technology. Well, there's health concerns, and pretty much every webinar that we've done, we've covered COVID-19, but COVID-19 actually worked as more of an accelerator in this industry, but there's still some concern, especially around the spread of germs. Richard, can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so where you've got headsets, where you've got a group of people using those headsets or any type of headgear that you put on, those when it goes from one person to the other, there's people who obviously and rightly have concerns about the germs you would get from someone wearing something on their face and then putting it onto another person. And especially in COVID times, people are a bit more worried about that than usual. So there's ways to get around that. There are different covers that you can put on to headsets that have a material that you can easily wipe, and you can use disinfectant wipes to wipe. But there are also adhesive masks or gauzes that you can put on the headset, so that whenever anyone ever uses one, they can just take the gauze off, put a new one on, and the next person uses the device. So there's ways of getting around it, but it's one of the concerns that we worry about. And the other thing is, yes, risk of injury. Certainly in a VR environment, you've got to remember when you're in VR, you're completely immersed in the environment. You cannot see anything that's going on around you. So you need to be aware of your boundaries. It always needs someone else around to make sure that people don't run into things or accidentally strike something in the house. I know that's happened in people's houses before. But there's software within the programs that show a virtual wall in front of you to make sure that you don't go outside a particular boundary. You set that boundary before you start using the device. So it's very easy to get around that. But there's still that chance where people get so immersed in a particular environment, they forget where they are and they really think that they're in that environment, and they could fall over, or that's why it's always good to have someone else around when you do certain experiences. Others are not risky. It depends what you're actually doing in the environment. The other one around motion sickness, that was a problem a few years ago. It's less of a problem today because the headsets today have a much higher refresh rate. This is the rate at which the screen changes inside the headset. Anything above 90 hertz, that's 90 times a second, tends to be so smooth that that prevents you from getting sickness. But some people are still susceptible to that. But certainly the standard and more higher end headsets, you don't have that sort of problem.
Well, Richard, what about the roller coaster VR?
Yeah, and that's the other thing I recommend. If anyone's done VR before, do not do a roller coaster experience. Do not use Google Cardboard where you put your phone in front of your face. It's not a good. You will get sick. So it's best to use to get a proper device and to really experience it. The cheaper versions are just that, and you get a cheap experience. But just don't do a roller coaster because you will be sick.
And then I know that you can get that superhero strength when you're playing some of these games and you're in a virtual experience, but there are some ways to avoid that. What are those, Chris?
The superhuman strength, like if you're playing a game or something like that, I mean, you got to have the wrist straps, right? But you don't want to throw anything into a TV or run too far. But there's actually some contained environments as well, where if you are going to be effectively this character that's going to have this strength, or that's going to you're going to be doing things beyond your normal physical capabilities. There's environments that you can have guardrails, you can have these tracks that can, I think it's an omnidirectional track is what it's called, where you can walk in these different directions. There's different ways to kind of prevent the physical movement, because it is really easy to get carried away and forget that you're virtually in this space, but you're physically in a very, very different space, right? So there's a couple different ways to prevent that, but ultimately, you really do need somebody there to kind of coach you along, no matter what environment you're in. And you kind of have to design that virtual environment to fit the physical environment as well. So it really depends.
And then when it comes to social impact, I recently watched Life 2.0 on Second Life, and it talks about just how people are living these two very different lives and a lot of the things that happen surrounding that. Zoe, can you tell us more about what you're seeing as far as the social impact of immersive technology?
So there is a lot of research that psychologists are doing at the moment, and with the impact of the pandemic in terms of isolation, this is not helping. our expectations in terms of how we interact are changing, and we are less able to deal with reality and some of its ever-present realities and disappointments. And we are getting better at tailoring what we see and what we do and what we're willing to tolerate. So we really do need to be very careful about the isolation that this is bringing and the impact that that has on our own ways of thinking. And there are very basic things that need to be thought about as well. If you remember when I don't know, when I last went into a shop, actually, it wasn't that long ago, you will see a shop assistant at the door, and they will catch your eye and you will say hello and they will say hello to you. And research reveals that you are then 10% less likely to steal from that shop. That tiny little interaction with that person creates a connection, which is to the shopkeeper a financial benefit, to the reduction of crime another benefit. And it's just one way in which these tiny little signals and very important factors in the way that we all live and get along together on planet Earth must not and really should not be ignored. And we need to consider this as we all disappear into this other place and leave the real one behind.
And we do have a question from LinkedIn that's pretty relevant to this slide from Marco Vanesco. And he asks, how can we reduce the radiation of lasers to the eyeball in headset devices? High exposure can cause damage. Do you think this can be reduced with electromagnetic sensors on the head or other parts of the body?
I can take it.
You do that.
Go ahead. So I'll take a stab at it. So a family member of mine works for a company that does eye tracking, laser tracking, and they've developed these like really crazy electromagnetic sensors. And yes, to your point, I mean, there is a lot of exposure to it, but I think you can change the way that it frequently, I guess, detects your eye. I don't know how you would use the magnetic sensors to it. There are alternative ways to do it, like head tracking, but if you really need to track the eyes, it might depend on the use case. And I think you may need to, if that's the concern, you might need to reevaluate how you want to develop an application and what the true goal is out of it, right? So an example is, one application we're developing is it's for healthcare, and it's around improving clinical judgment for new nurses. And what we're doing is we're tracking the eye going into a room and we want to know where they look, right, to identify some problems. So something like that, that's going to be a relatively short exposure term. So if that type of exposure is a really big deal, then you really need to consider how you want to integrate that stuff and where you can mitigate it with electromagnetic sensors, for example. I'm not a specialist in that kind of stuff, but that's my level of awareness with how you can mitigate something like that. I don't know if Richard or anybody else has something to add to it.
Yeah, well, I know that there are many headsets today that have got eye tracking in them, and it's it's going to be a feature that's going to be standard in most headsets of the future. They don't use lasers though. They're not shining lasers in your eye. They normally use infrared. They do use different types of methods of detecting where your retina is looking in a particular given space, but they're not, as far as the more where there can be more damage is the actual screens themselves rather than the actual eye tracking devices that are inside those headsets. The jury's still out as to how much damage very long, prolonged exposure that it is, similar to how people look at a phone for hours and hours every day. They don't know how much damage that's doing. So it would depend on the person, but it's a very good question, and it's something that they have to look at. In future, they'll be less powerful, the screens. They'll be more higher resolution, but they'll use less power. So they're less likely to be harmful on your eyes. Yeah, it's something that needs to be looked at, and I know some research has been done on that already by some universities, but the jury's still out.
Now, looking at some other tech challenges, there's the connectivity and bandwidth. And one thing surrounding this is the latency. And while it may be one thing, Zoe, you mentioned players dying while they're playing a game, but what if it's somebody on the surgeon table and it's a virtual surgery? That's a whole nother deal. So how serious is this issue, Chris? And also, what about the battery issue as well?
Yeah, so the battery, we're having problems with that. I mean, it's not really problems, it's just kind of where the battery is at and the processing power in these headsets, right? So you can mitigate battery life with with battery packs for standalone devices. You can integrate them in other ways, but ultimately you're just tethering more things to the headset, which can be cumbersome. I think as we're starting to, we're pushing the laws of physics on manufacturing, it's going to just naturally improve. It's so good right now, but the way that we can integrate different energy sources or just make batteries more efficient, make processors more efficient rather. But also we can mitigate that kind of stuff in terms of offloading the data processing, right? So we can either do it to a cloud, to a regional edge. There's a lot of different ways that we can mitigate the processing power that consumes a lot of the battery life and technical issues. And of course, 5G is going to be a huge enabler of that, and a lot of these devices are 5G compatible at this point. And I know Richard has a lot, and Nathan as well, experience with 5G, so I'll let them speak more on top of that.
And Nathan, can you tell us the challenges that you see surrounding pixel streaming?
Well, so basically in the kind of area that I am, we're dealing a lot with big companies with a lot of data, and that's okay if you're kind of on your own device and you're just consuming it yourself. But if you're kind of sharing this with other people, or you're kind of using it in virtual reality where you're having to kind of stream it then gets a lot more complicated. So there's a variety of ways to do that. Pixel streaming basically means rendering it on a computer somewhere else. I guess I should say that the problem is the computing power to process all this information. So VR uses a lot more processing power than just rendering to a screen. So not everyone has a device that's capable of rendering all that information. So pixel streaming involves rendering on a kind of high-end device somewhere else in the cloud, as we say, and then just streaming the pixels that need to go to the screen down to you. Now that requires you to kind of pay for that remote resource to be on all the time and rendering for you. So that's not free. But there are other ways as well. So that we've been kind of pioneering 3D streaming technologies, which allow you to actually just stream 3D information to a remote device as you need it. We deal with kind of clients with billions and billions of points, which just can't be rendered by any device all at once. So streaming information is the way to go, because it means that whatever device you have, whether it's a kind of low-end headset or a high-end headset or just a computer, it can adapt to the capabilities of the device that you've got. If you, as we get into collaborative kind of design and review, and you've got multiple people in different places all needing to look at the same data, then streaming is the only way that many people can look at very complex data, because otherwise it would take them half an hour to download the full model, which wouldn't be practical. So we're going to be seeing more of that, and with 5G. Allowing people in remote places to stream information live if they're kind of scanning buildings or whatever they're doing, that will make things a lot easier. Otherwise, at the moment, you need a broadband connection.
And Richard, can you tell us briefly a little bit about the privacy and data security and what's happening with the different challenges surrounding that?
Yeah, sure. And just to extend on what Nathan was saying, definitely the future is going to be this, because as we have so much volume of 3D data and models that will be generated in the world as it goes on, like the internet generates terabytes or exabytes of data all the time, the same thing will happen with 3D objects and environments. And the only way to handle that will be in the cloud. The cloud will be the only way, the mechanism to get those devices, to get that data to the devices on demand. And because the devices will be quite small, they won't be even in the future, they won't be powerful enough to render complex images. And remote rendering, which is already available for the HoloLens that Microsoft uses, it's called Microsoft Azure Remote Rendering. They already render complex objects and then stream it to the HoloLens device. And that allows you to look at the most complex objects with a relatively low-powered device. But it's just going to be more and more like that in the future. And when there's so much data, that'll be the only model that'll be able to support a multitude of 3D objects in the 3D world. With regard to security, the AR and VR world is in its infancy at the moment, and devices are not very secure. They're not as secure as you might have on your laptop or even your phone. Even phones are much more secure than these devices. So in the enterprise, when we have to deploy these in a large scale, we have to protect the VR and AR devices much the same way as we protect IoT devices, which are also inherently non-secure. So we have to build infrastructure around them, especially for the enterprise, just to deal with these devices. We have to treat them differently to a computer and a mobile phone, even though that's what they are. They are a computer. They do have an IP address, and they do need to be managed like any other device. So that's going to be a challenge, and it's already a challenge at the moment. And then there's the other side, the soft side of security, which is data privacy. And this is where it's really important that privacy is managed properly, and it's not controlled by a single organization. We don't want another Facebook that we have on the internet world controlling this world, because it just won't work. And that's why hopefully when the metaverse gets developed properly, it'll be an open system that all companies will participate in, just like the way the internet is today. The internet is an open platform that anyone can use, and that anyone can secure as well, and it's run by lots of companies. And so that's what we've got to build in the next communications platform.
Thank you, Richard. And let's take a look at the value exchange. So how do you measure the ROI? Is it that and the impacts of it? There's really many different approaches to this. And Abdul, did you want to tell us what you're seeing as far as the value exchange?
Sure. So I think one of the biggest, the most gray area in terms of between immersive technology and institutions and corporates is the understanding of aligning the company values with the technology values. So every technology has different application, provide different values, and the most one of the biggest reason why majority of the companies are failing in successful integration of immersive tech is the lack of understanding how to align the values of what immersive tech provides and what their company value is. So I think that is the one key for a successful implementation of any immersive tech for any company is to identify what are the values, what are the objectives you want to achieve, and which immersive technology can help to achieve that. So that alignment of the value proposition of the company vision and the technology value should align in order to have a successful implementation. And that's, I think, the key which not only imply for the companies, but also other industry, institutions, schools. So for that, we need to also build awareness about what are the different technologies available and what's the difference between among all of them, what value each one of them brings. So for example, let's say, I will give you a very small example. So let's say in the e-commerce retail marketing, let's say there are two brands. One is the eyewear, okay, and let's say on the other hand, there is a, let's say, furniture store, right? Now, now in the eyewear, one of the best suitable technology is AR rather than VR. Why? Because AR would help you to virtual try on with the help of your selfie camera, right? And that's where you're aligning the value proposition of that, how the eyewear fits on your face and how it looks. On the other hand, you cannot use the same with your furniture, right? You need to use camera tracking, surface tracking, where the AR scans your room and fits your furniture into your room, shows you how it would look like. So depending upon your value proposition, you need to understand and align both of them.
Thank you. And Richard, is there anything else that you'd like to add about how you find the ROI when you're implementing these technologies?
Well, it all depends really, because it depends how the technology is used. Because this can be used in the retail industry, in the manufacturing industry, in almost any industry in the world. It depends what the use case is. And one thing we've got to realize with this technology, it's not a solution waiting for a problem. As we always say, in a lot of this new stuff, the company or the organization or the person has to have a problem that they're trying to solve. And this can solve in certain ways if it's done right, and they can get the proper return on investment. You don't want to try and develop something to say, oh, we think we've got this problem, and then spend millions of dollars on it, and then find out that, oh, actually it wasn't really worth it, and it doesn't give the industry a good name either. So it's really important that this is just a tool, or it's a technology that can be used to solve some and quite a lot of business problems and problems in the everyday world. But it's not a solution looking for a problem, if you know what I mean. So there are different ones. I used it in the automotive industry. We were using, I can go into that example if you like. We were showing motor cars to our customers in virtual reality. We were selling cars, and we were able to show customers certain options on the cars that they might not have thought of getting. And for instance, we can the customer can sit in a chair and sit inside the car, and we can change the options on the fly. Now, that is a business return on investment in itself, because it meant that we didn't need to have so many different cars of the same model with all the different options, because you can never do that. A motor car has hundreds or thousands of combinations of options. So the business case for that was, we didn't need a bigger showroom for the retail center, because we could just have one model of the car, and we could show the hundreds of different options of that model to the customer in one-to-one scale in real time. And that allowed us to have a smaller showroom. Another one was where we could show options to the customer that they might not have thought of, that they might not have thought, oh, I don't really need 20-inch wheels, for instance, instead of 18-inch wheels. People say, why would I want 20-inch wheels? So you could show them, and you just with a flick of the button, you could show the customer what the car looked like in full 3D with 20-inch wheels. And then they say, oh, okay, yeah, that looks quite good. So we could sell more options on the car. And that really helped to increase our gross margin, because options, when in the car industry, just to go through that, the base car, they don't make much profit from the base model car. They make all their profit from the options of the car. So if you choose 20-inch wheels, they make a 50% margin, for instance, on the 20-inch wheels. So that sort of thing helped improve our revenue, and and that gave us our ROI. But that's just for that example. It's completely different for every other type of industry. But that gave us lots of different ways that we could make a more efficient business and increase our gross profit.
Thank you. And Nathan, you had also brought up a great point about the fact that it reduces mistakes. So I just wanted to mention that as we look at the barriers to adoption. And for me, like cost, availability, and access seem like the obvious ones. But you also, Nathan, you also mentioned that awareness is another big issue, and it's the whole not understanding and the lack of understanding. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so there's always debate going around on whether it's the cost or availability or access of the kind of three that you've got there, and whether that's what's holding the industry back, and really it isn't. The technology kind of keeps moving along nicely. The headsets get smaller and cheaper, but the awareness is the kind of the biggest kind of difficulty that we face, really, because unless you put a VR headset on someone and show them a way of looking at things they've never seen before, then you're trying to explain it using other media. You're trying to use a video, or you're trying to explain it. But it's not really, it's a completely different medium. So how do you explain a completely different medium using other medium and expect people to get excited about it? So the more we can, I mean, this is where COVID's been a real problem for us, because we haven't been able to just do the events where we've got the headsets. I mean, I've done thousands and thousands of demonstrations before 2020, where you're putting headsets on people and they're getting incredibly excited and understanding why it's so different, and how all of a sudden they totally feel like they're somewhere else. So awareness of how different XR technologies can help people is actually the key challenge, because it's completely disruptive technology. It's not like other technologies. So unless you put it on people's heads or show them a device and then show them, and then back it up with what other people have been doing and how other people have been reducing their training times or improving their health and safety, people don't understand that they need it.
Exactly. And then Chris, do you want to touch on the change management briefly and just tell us what you're seeing there? Because it is a process to bring in this technology and train everyone efficiently.
Absolutely. And, that's exactly what makes this disruptive is, we're not just changing the tools, we're changing the processes, right? Ultimately, these are just really, really advanced communication devices where we can now have access to a ton of information at our fingertips. And not only can we just communicate, someone's knowledge to another, but we're communicating through different types of emotion depending on the use case. We're making this a lot more available really quickly. And, for that change management to happen, that's a really difficult process to start getting people to do something differently, right? So it's to do this effectively, especially from a healthcare perspective, training thousands of nurses previously, change is, it's hard to get change. It's hard to get change adoption. And the best way to do it is to get everybody involved, or the key individuals involved, through multiple levels, right? And there's an education process around, what does this mean for you? How does this make it better? What do you want to see? What's important to you out of this? Because something that's important to a tech, right, is going to be different to the manager, to the CTO. So it really, really depends, but you have to go up and down the whole chain of command to understand what's everyone's need around this, and how can you show them that it's actually going to be a benefit. So it's just getting everyone involved ultimately.
Thank you, Chris. And let's go ahead and look at the technologies themselves, and starting with the types of hardware. And Nathan, can you walk us through these different types and tell us a little bit more about this?
Yeah, sure. The types of hardware go hand in hand with the types of content, and types of content can be captured from the real world, either photographically or using lasers, or the content can be totally kind of created inside a computer to create 3D models and rendered very, very realistically. So the devices can be the virtual reality headsets that we talked about, completely block you off from the real world and then display these types of content, either the kind of the photographic based content or the 3D models. And then we've got the augmented reality devices that we talked about. They could be in the form of phones and tablets. Well, we don't call them augmented reality devices, we just call them phones and tablets, but they can be augmented reality devices because they're just overlaying what's coming in the camera. The newest iPhones and tablets have a LiDAR depth laser on the back, which help them to understand the kind of the space you're in as well. And then we've already talked about the kind of mixed reality devices. I held up this earlier. This is the HoloLens. This has optical pass-through of the real world, and then it overlays digital content on top. There's, as Richard mentioned, there's also digital mixed reality devices where instead of optically passing through the real world, you have cameras on the front of a VR headset, and you digitally bring in the real world instead. So they're called digital pass-through devices, mixed reality. So you've got all these different ways of looking at this content. You've got different devices for capturing the kind of the content. That could be either just 360 cameras for kind of more basic content, or you could be having a drone that's flying around, taking photographs in all directions, or scanning a laser and then creating a complete 3D model that you can then walk around later. So they're all part of the XR ecosystem of technology and devices. We've got kind of projection environments, as we talked about before. That's coming into filmmaking now, where you have virtual sets instead of using green screen. We're using game engines to generate the scenery that's correct according to where the camera is looking at any given time. That's been absolutely phenomenal and a real game changer in filmmaking, because it means with green screen, if you have any reflective materials, they just reflect green. But if you have a real LCD kind of wall behind you or all around you, then anything reflective actually reflects the background that you want it to. So that's really exciting. And then we've got all the kind of devices that work in conjunction with it. The haptic gloves that allow you to feel virtual objects. They're really exciting. Haptex is one of the best ones out there. I've tried that several times, and you actually kind of it can pull on the fingers to stop them closing when you grip something, and it can also stimulate your kind of fingers using tiny little 3D pixels on your fingers, so you can actually feel things. So this is all coming, yeah, there's a kind of this huge kind of range of devices that relate to what you're trying to do, what the use case is, and what equipment you have at the other end.
Thank you, Nathan. And Abdullah's also going to touch on this in his bonus session that's going to be following this webinar. So be sure you stick around for that, and I'll tell you more about the 3D projection and holographic displays. But let's look at some of these applications. And there are so many. This is just a small list, but one that's not exactly on the list that I do want to cover while Zoe's still with us. I know she has an appointment she's got to go to here shortly. So Zoe, can you tell us more about how it's being used to produce empathy? I think it's a great use case.
So in the not-for-profit arena, Amnesty International have an incredible piece, which is actually 360 film, and it's called Fear from the Sky. And it illustrates the problem of living in Aleppo when barrel bombs specifically, are being dropped from the sky. Something like 8,000 people were killed in the years between 2012 and 2014. And this piece is used to add pressure to stop this from happening. And it was actually put together by citizen journalists. So it was the journalists on the ground who were reporting the bombing. They were also helping with the data, and they produced an incredible piece, which I don't think is actually online anymore, but it is well worth having a look if you can find it. It's by Amnesty International, the US branch. But another one that I find incredibly appealing is Bashir's Dream, which is a documentary, again done in 360, of a young 14-year-old boy, again in Syria. He's a refugee, and he was actually shot in the back. And it tells his story, and it uses an immersive experience to show what his dream was. His dream was to be a basketball player, and his story takes you back to the actual experience itself, and then it takes you forward on the journey with his dad, for example, to hospital, to the issue he has with actually getting medical care. And for me, it invoked an incredible sadness. And I do think if you have a story that you want to tell, then you really should be looking at these kinds of technologies, because they do place the person you want to have an impact on much closer to the story that you're trying to tell. It's way better than a photograph or an animation or anything else. And equally, these are not actually that high res in terms of experience, because the actual impact on you is the story. So these are just simple planes, very basic animations, but boy, are they effective.
Thank you so much. And let's go ahead and look at the enabling technologies. And there's blockchain. And as Zoe mentioned in another call, blockchain's not used for all applications. However, in some games, you'll see cryptocurrency being exchanged in the game, and that's done through blockchain a lot of times. And then there's IoT. Nathan, can you tell us how IoT is involved in immersive tech?
Yeah, so people are talking more and more about digital twins, and effectively that's just a kind of 3D reproduction of a building, or could be a whole town or a facility of some kind. But at the end of the day, just having a 3D model of your, let's say it was a kind of gas plant or something, isn't that much use to you unless it's got some kind of intelligence behind it. So the kind of the real kind of clever thing happens when you have sensors in the real world around your plant, and then they link through to your digital twin. So when you can walk around the virtual model, either just on your computer screen or in virtual reality, it doesn't really matter. It's still kind of a real-time 3D experience. But you can then interrogate things. You can click on sensors and you can get readouts. You can alarms that go off in the real world can go off in your digital twin and what have you. So it starts to become a very kind of intelligent model. Or if you've got tunnels for rail or mining, you can check air quality, you can check temperatures, and all these kinds of things very, very easily from within your virtual model. So IoT is kind of works hand in hand with virtual models. It links to the kind of communications backbones. We talked about 5G. All of these things are coming together: IoT, 5G, big data, AI, and virtual reality is a way to consume all this complex data and make sense of it very easily. So we're seeing a convergence of all these technologies together.
Thank you. And Richard, is there anything you wanted to add about the AI, machine learning, and the drones at all? I know we touched on it earlier, so.
Yeah, it's the combination of all these technologies are enablers for immersive computing, and one of them that we haven't talked about is blockchain, and one of the things parts of what the new immersive world will be, and it's already being used, is NFTs, which are called which stand for non-fungible tokens, and these are objects that you'll be able to, well, you can already basically like copyright or buy in a virtual world. That might be a virtual jacket that you wear on your avatar. It might be a song that you've written. It might be any sort of media or anything that you can. It might be a painting. It might be a 3D model that you've painted in virtual reality. But then you can attach that to the blockchain and use that as the commerce platform to be able to sell and onward sell using cryptocurrency. Not necessarily Bitcoin, it'll be something else like Ethereum or something else, to actually make that a valuable thing. And it's really this is emerging technology now, but it could be a really valuable thing for budding artists. People is to take the big company, potentially it can take the big companies out of taking all the profit. If you've written a really good song and it goes to number one on all the charts, it lets that artist get all the money for that song and not have to give half of it to EMI or any of the big music companies. And it's the same for artwork. But it can also be the same for you might have a unique jacket that you wear is on your avatar, and then you can attach an NFT to that and then and use it in the blockchain, and then it's completely protected and no one else can have it and it's yours. And it makes it, a whole new way of doing commerce. And it probably could make the cryptocurrency a bit more mature because it'll start off in this world. It won't be, we try and adapt cryptocurrency to the real world as we do now, and it's not working very well. But in the virtual world, it might work very well if we do it right from the beginning. So there's the blockchain is going to be a very important part of all this. And then AI and machine learning, artificial intelligence and machine learning go hand in working on avatars and digital humans. And digital humans are the next thing that we're developing now to try and make avatars as close as possible to a human. Today they're all more cartoonish, but yeah, we can look at that. That's one of the trends we're going to look at next.
Yes. So as we move forward and look at the forward-looking thoughts and the top 10 trends, I went ahead and advanced the slide because digital humans is on there. So you kind of went into a little bit of detail on that there. And you also brought up a great point that we're going to talk about on this slide with the immersive e-commerce. Abdul, do you want to tell us about the social dilemma attached to that?
Sure. So majority of us might be aware of the new metaverse world coming in, where immersive technology is no longer going to be separate, and it's going to be a part of the whole internet world. It will be a part of each and every sector. So I think that social media, my observation, so everything has its pros and cons. So one of my observation and biggest concern is the social dilemma. So what happens, every one of us has two different identities, right? One is the real world and second is in the digital world. Everyone have their own thoughts in the real world and different perspective in the digital world. And one of the rising issue which we are aware of because of the social media, that the dilemma that majority of the youngsters are spending a lot of time in the digital world, buying assets, buying status value, spending money and time on building status, and that status has nothing to do with the real world. It's only in the digital world. It's completely virtual, And with the rise of this metaverse, my biggest concern is, because when this metaverse will come into the picture, metaverse is already there. It's been there in the gaming industry a lot. What is happening now that this metaverse is now transforming from gaming into the whole internet world. where we are something calling it as Web 3.0, where the whole internet would be replaced with something called as complete virtual world, where you can call it as a parallel universe, that we all will be not just living in the digital world, but the current digital world enhanced with multi-dimension. You can live, you can walk, you can literally buy real estate in the digital world. You can buy land, you can do so many things, right? And not only that, but you will be also there will be people who will be buying virtual clothes. You would be utilizing your real money to buy those virtual clothes, which has already been there in the gaming industry. One of the virtual skin which I'm aware of in the Counter-Strike game was around $1.6 million. And that was the cost of just one virtual cloth in the game. Imagine the amount of price. And Roblox, if you see it, Roblox is right now the biggest, the most valued company in the world, with valuation more than $40 billion. And who are the audience? Kids are spending those money on buying these virtual assets. So I think that social dilemma is one of the biggest concern, which is going to raise more with the incoming of metaverse. So we all need to understand what's the pros and cons. We need to use it at the best and take precautions in avoiding getting distracted with what technology is providing and what not. So we need to be strategic and tactical in terms of how we use the technology. So that's my take on this metaverse coming and the social dilemma. Thank you.
Thank you. And Zoe, did you want to comment on the metaverse as well? I know that we touched on it before the webinar started, but is there anything you'd like to add at this point?
I know Richard was saying there'll be one metaverse, as in there is one web. But I would just, the way we got to the one web with, the incredible Tim Berners-Lee and the web is for everyone. And then the fractured path of Mark Anderson and Netscape and Microsoft and Edge and all of the different ways in which these different technologies are then pioneered for financial gain. Clearly, you need to be at the forefront of that to, I guess, make the most money. My concern is that this will be yet again another fractured experience for a very long time. I want to go away and come back in about 60 years' time, when they're kind of, for those older people among us, the Betamax, what was the other one? The other format, when those arguments have been sorted out. Because at the moment, if we want one metaverse, I don't see any collaboration. I see more disparity in terms of gaining business advantage. I see different ways of describing things and people being told something is one thing when it isn't. My understanding of the Internet 3.0 is not shared. I thought it was about the decentralizing of data and the fact that we will carry our own data, and that the blockchain architecture will be used in a way that will enable us to do that. So that there isn't, well, for the last week, I don't have a similar understanding of what some of these technologies are. And I work in the industry. So while I love everything about it, my concern is that we are growing. It's so difficult to be with people. I just had a plumber in here and it's just like, you're in my house. What are you doing here? Mend the tap and go. Force it. I'm struggling to be with people. So this only is going to make that worse. Horizon, Facebook's metaverse, has a citizens charter. Now, by the time I get in there, I'm just going to go around and kill you. Every time you regenerate, I'm just going to knock you on the head with a magic hammer. Who's going to stop me from doing that? We have so many things Abdul has brought up already that are questions that remain unanswered. And look at where we've got to with social media. Yikes. I wish us all well, and I hope that we have a future where we share, I'm a bit dubious about that. But I don't want to end on an unhappy note, because some of the experiences I've had in the virtual world have changed my life. One I will just shout out is called Transition. It's about the journey from life to death. Actually, it sounds very miserable, but actually it's one of the most beautiful experiences. It was done by a couple of Dutch students, and it's just about a simple character, which happens to be a dog. And he gets in the boat with you, and just occasionally, or he or she looks back at you, and it's just brilliantly done. So from that perspective, actually using some of this to bring back the emotion that we all feel and that we all know we want, that's where I'm going to put my highest of hopes. So I'm going to bow out on that. Thank you ever so much. It's brilliant to meet everyone.
Also, I do have something to add for you.
Oh, okay.
It is interesting that in the movie, or it's a series called Upload. I believe it's on Amazon or possibly Netflix. But the name of you can upload your consciousness to the afterlife, and it's conveniently called Horizon. But there was a question that was asked in the chat here if there's a way to avoid dying by having your consciousness uploaded to one of these virtual realities. So, what are your thoughts on that, everyone?
Well, just very briefly then, we've only just sorted out the right to die and the right to be erased. So, well, we'll have to sort that one out, Tiffany. Yes, that's not an easy question.
All right. Well, I guess I'll let you get off easy on that one, and maybe someone else wants to answer the consciousness question.
Yeah, so this is one of my, most curious area of the mind consciousness with the technology. So we all might have watched movies like Avatar, Real One, Player, so in the Avatar movie, if you see that the human consciousness was transferred from the human body to an alien body. So that was the envisioning of how it would look like. But as of now, it's too soon to comment on how we're going to transfer our consciousness. But yes, we have taken some steps. So there's something called as cryogenics, where the body has been frozen in minus hundreds of degrees Celsius. And these bodies, when they're frozen, so they can survive. They can be sustained for a long period of time, and there is a room of cryogenics in America where people like many basketball players have been stored in the cryogenics, storing the body and mind in a hope that in the future we might be able to revise their consciousness and revive them from death. So there is a few steps which are being taken, like for example the brain of Albert Einstein has been still stored, right? So with the help of cryogenics. So I think these are my talks, but I feel that it's no longer where people would be able to transfer their consciousness from the real world to the virtual world, and will be able to feel in the real virtual as if it is completely real until you allow yourself to exit the virtual world. And there are a few movies which are envisioning that. And also, and also you can, I would also suggest to audience to have a look at VR simulations, VR exoskeletons. So there are a few companies which are developing exoskeleton suit, and when you wear those exoskeleton, and let's say if you're playing a shooting game, okay, now in the VR world, but if someone hits you with a bullet, you can feel that in the real world. Amazing, right? So you can just have a look at that, which are a few steps taking forward to achieve that science fiction.
All right. Well, we're getting so many questions in the chat. I definitely want to be able to get to these. So I'm going to go ahead and advance to areas for growth. And there is the fastest growing are enterprise applications and education and training. Chris, did you want to talk about what you see as far as the enterprise applications and how you see that growing?
Well, I think, as we continue to, can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. As this tech continues to build out and the software becomes more optimized to the hardware, and we can stream larger pieces of data, I think we're going to start connecting this to other systems that are, pun intended, beyond IoT, right? The purpose of all of this, right? How do we bridge the the connection between all these different solutions into one system where we can disseminate and provide people this information appropriately. So, I think the next logical step, and where a lot of stuff is happening now, is integrating extended reality training, education with AI. And a lot of this is, in a field called computerized adaptive learning, where effectively, as someone's going through training, or they're doing a procedure on something live, AI can actually track the performance and adjust the feedback it's giving, hopefully predicting, any possible outcomes to mitigate anything negative with it, right? So I think that type of integration is going to be the next area for growth. I think the digital twins are also going to be are going to be a huge part of this, right? And the more sophisticated that we can get with the animation and dissemination of these virtual products, I think the more we can speed up the process and have more engagement around how we learn something. So I think it's just going to be a slow connection between all these different technologies, and I think the use cases are there. We just have to start connecting them to other things, and I think we can speed up the process that way.
And there's also a lot of growth expected for logistics and package delivery using immersive technology, as well as industrial maintenance. And we talked about those slightly, but there's also some predictions that we have. And one different podcast I was listening to said, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, then the potential of immersive technologies is exponential. And I really like that one. And Chris, would you also mind explaining what's happening between the interactive 3D content, and it was 3D web, it's web 3D. Can you tell us a little bit more about that topic just briefly?
Around web, around 3D content and how it interacts with web 3D?
The web 3D concept and just the move towards 3D interactive content.
Sure. So most of the applications that we build in are going to be app-based and not web-based, but with Web 3D, you're basically increasing the interactivity with with these environments, with the products, because Web AR and XR as a whole isn't that interactive at this point. So Web 3D is basically just increasing the interactivity and making it, it's preferred because you can just go on any browser, right, and access this content. But to my understanding, we're just making it more available and more interactive.
Perfect. And tips. We've got some tips here listed that we've put together for if you are looking to deploy immersive technology. But we'll go around and have everyone just share one tip, starting with Richard. Richard, can you provide a tip for the audience?
Right. Well, there's lots of different tips you could give depending on the use case and what it is. So from the enterprise perspective, you have to think of security first. How you're going to secure your devices, and anyone who's rolls this technology out in large scale has to treat it like IoT. So a headset or an AR headset is an IoT device. And if you treat it like that, put it on its own network, have it on its own, behind its own firewalls and its own VPN, if it's being accessed remotely, is the best way to secure them, because the devices themselves are inherently not secure. So security needs to be thought of as at first. Making a good relationship with any specific supplier is probably not a good idea, because the different suppliers or different manufacturers change as in terms of who's got the best headset at the time. So it goes from one manufacturer to another, and it's not good to commit yourselves to one particular manufacturer. And that goes to the same thing when you purchase it. Your capital expenditure should be always operational expenditure. You should always rent or lease the devices and not pay for them, because they will go out of date very quickly. They will go out of date within 12 months, and they're like a phone. They just go out of date very quick, and it's best to move all your expenditure to operational and use lease payments for large quantities of headsets. So then you can give them back, get the new one out when the next one comes along. driving engagement's really important as well. Getting people used to it in a very gentle way. It's certain headset, the way the technology is at the moment, it's not suited to every person on the planet at the moment. There's one of the barriers that we had that we didn't talk about before was around religious people who wear certain headsets. It's very headdresses. It's very difficult for them to put on these devices at the moment, and we have to think about how we handle those people that need to wear, a turban or a scarf or whatever it happens to be. It'll be easier over time as the headsets get smaller and they turn into glasses. We're hoping that within a few years, they'll be as lightweight as a pair of glasses, which anybody can wear. But as it is today, we have to think about how certain people in the world or how certain people of a certain background can use the technology. And when you're in a big company, you're going to have people from all over the world. So that's another thing to think of. The other thing is make it easy, and using WebXR and WebAR is the best way to access the technology. It's complex to get into, it's complex to use, and to make it as simple as possible to be able to immerse yourself in a particular experience is going to be extremely important for any organization to try and use the technology. One great example of that is Zoom. Zoom became really big in the big pandemic because it was very easy to join a Zoom lesson. They made it very easy. You just clicked on a link. It wasn't very secure, but you clicked on a link and you joined the meeting, and that's all you had to do. A lot of the other meeting software was very difficult to use, and it was hard for people to use. And that's why Zoom became very, very successful. So the same sort of thing has got to come with this adoption. The adoption of this technology has got to be simple. And today, it's still quite complex to use, and it needs a lot of training. But it's going to get there. I have faith.
And we have breaking news. Thank you, Jennifer Davis, for the breaking news report. Things are shifting fast in immersive tech, and Facebook just announced today at the company's Connect conference that it is renaming itself Meta as a part of its shift towards VR, said the founder, Mark Zuckerberg. So that's interesting.
They changed their whole name.
They changed the name, guys. Meta. And Nathan, please give us your tip on that note.
Yeah, well, my biggest tip is probably more for business users, and that's my area. But don't ignore immersive technologies. But also don't kind of get overwhelmed by immersive technologies either. We see a lot of people kind of spending too much money. I think Richard just kind of touched on this really. It's moving all the time. So if you invest too much money on some headsets at the moment, or commissioning some content, then within 6 months or a year, that will be out of date, and you'll probably be reluctant to then spend a lot more money again. So the trick is to spend as little as possible to find the value for you. And there's going to be many ways that you can be using immersive technologies, not even just one. So what you want to do is identify a few different ways you could be using it, try and prototype a few of them, and see which ones actually add the most value to you, and then develop those and scale those. So that's my my best advice.
Thank you, Nathan. And Chris, a tip?
Yeah, I think this type of technology can do two things. It can solve problems and create opportunities, right? And I think by really evaluating, the goal of how you want to use this stuff, and I would say, don't buy it just to, just because it looks cool, but, really look at it, study it, and understand how this can affect whatever industry it is that you're in, right? And I think to Nathan's point, do some pilots with it, right? I mean, if you have that goal identified, play around with it. Adopt some platforms, partner up with a vendor who can help guide you on that. And I think really importantly as well, start upskilling your team, whether that's XR or IoT product management, get some developers involved. I would say start educating your entire team around, coming and what this transformation is going to look like, and it's going to be a long process. I think sharing the value within the organization of we want to invest in this digital world. I think the more people you can get on board in your organization, you're going to have a lot of ideas come to you that you hadn't thought of or you hadn't considered. So I would say make it a public thing within the organization, and I would say find an expert in the field who really understands your industry, and start playing around with it and identify some goals that you want to tackle. So I would say just really minimize it and summarize what is the goal around why you'd want to start using this tech.
And thank you, Chris. And Abdul, you have a whole bonus session with tips. Do you want to save it for the bonus session, or do you have one you want to share now?
Yes, I would love to share more detail in the bonus session, but to just share in order to sum up, I feel one of the best way to start implementing is, number one, get rid of the fear of risk, the fear of whether it would work or not, and start with a pilot. Always never jump on implementing something at the scalable level. Try with a pilot, do multiple pilots until it achieves your objective, until it aligns with your values, the problem you want to solve with. And you can also apply design thinking process for that. So when I was working with some of the biggest companies in India and other countries, like education, automobile, and other consumer brands, so I always provide them a framework in where we first align, start with the pilot. And once the pilot is successful, then you can scale. So I think get rid of the fear, start with the pilot. I think that's the way to go. Execution speaks more. Thank you.
All right. Well, that's also great advice. So next, let's take a look at these upcoming webinars. And we have the Smart Money webinar. What? How immersive is that, right? Smart Money. Make it rain. Well, come back next month and hear about Smart Money. We're going to talk about fintech, crypto, blockchain, all those things. We have an amazing panel from around the world. Again, we've got so much information to share. We've got our award show coming up in December. Be sure to come back for that. And there's also still nominations open on our website. So if we could cue the CTA for the registrations, Jennifer Davis. And we also have our 2022 Emerging Trends Edition that'll take place in January. So if anyone is interested in participating in that, we are still looking for speakers that have emerging trends or that are experts on those emerging trends. And there is the CTA for the upcoming webinars. And I'll leave that up for a second and ask one of the questions from the chat, and then we'll circle back here. So here's one from Maynard SS Clark. May I purchase happiness in the virtual world? Will I continue to believe that I am happy? Have you seen the 1960s novel Dial Pleasure that discusses this topic?
Well, there are plenty of meditation experiences and relaxation experiences that you can buy on the various app stores for the VR platforms. That's on Steam and on the Facebook store. There are plenty of those things that help you relax. I don't know whether they actually make you happy, but they make you feel good.
He continues this question with a second follow-up question. Will the happiest surfers of this historical shift be those who have done the most work in innovation, or merely those who figure out optimally how to best use it? And a third question from the same person. Thank you very much for your questions here. Do we expect a reconfiguration of the nation's art schools the way they incorporated CAD and VR already?
I think that's actually a pretty good question. I think it's already begun, right? Not only just for traditional art, but in terms of industrial creation of objects as well. So I think this can be integrated on different levels. But it's funny you asked that question, because yesterday I was actually scanning some local paintings, right, doing 3D artwork, and they effectively want to turn those into NFTs. So I think the process is coming. But trying to identify what tools we want to integrate and, what skills are going to be most valuable with, reconfiguring an art school, for example, those are to be seen. But, 3D art is getting bigger and bigger, and it's all starting off with the whole NFT exchange. But I think it's a totally good question.
And to that question, since we still have our smart money slide up, Helen Brown asks, expanding on what you've said there, Richard, as someone who's very fond of Ethereum and Buterin, if an AI makes an NFT or blockchain in general, would it own it? Would it own it, or would its rights fall to the maker of the AI?
It would fall to the maker of the AI. That's the whole point of an NFT, that it's non-fungible, which means it's non-transferable. So it means that you can't, so whatever you make, whether it's a piece of AI, it could be anything. Like, this is just in its infancy at the moment. It could be a line of code. It could be an application. It could be a piece of virtual clothing. It could be a song. It could be a painting. It could be any type of media that you could think of that is computerized, that can be represented in a virtual world. So yeah, any NFT that's the whole beauty of it, that it'll allow artists to be able to potentially, if it works, to be able to get all the profits from whatever they produce and be able to keep all the money, because it'll be in the blockchain and no one will be able to take it away. But their money will be a cryptocurrency, and whether it's Ethereum or any of the Litecoin or any of those cryptocurrencies, we don't know yet. But you could use any of them today.
Okay, we do still have several questions, but let's go ahead and skip to the next slide. Thank you for watching. Keep watching. We still have another bonus session, but we also have offers from IoT Marketing. So if you would like to schedule a free 30-minute strategy session or learn more about our advertising opportunities, we are running a buy one, get one advertising special. Please click on the link there. And we also have many other services from PR, graphic design, you name it. We can help you with that. And we'll go ahead and skip to this slide for Abdul's workshop and the bonus session that he will be providing at no cost following the webinar. The workshop is available to purchase tickets for. And do you want to tell us a little bit about that real quick, Abdul?
Sure. So what we have done is with the rise of metaverse, with the rise of immersive technology, one of the biggest barrier I see is the awareness, the lack of awareness among corporate, industry, and education world. So what our objective with this workshop is, we have designed two different versions of this workshop. One is for cater for the education professionals, corporate training and project management, anyone who is associated with education training. And second is designed for the corporate / industry level professionals, whether engineers or product development or company CEOs who are looking to integrate. Because I feel with this workshop, we are going to provide really strong value. It's going to be amazing, fun workshop where we are going to focus on the workshop 1 on education, workshop 2 on the industry corporate level. And the most important thing is we're also going to cover how to start implementing with the immersive technology, which is the right one, how the evolution happened, what are the existing different types, where to use and how to use. So I think with this workshop, many companies, many participants would be equipped with the power of using the immersive technology with the best possible result ROI, as we also discussed earlier. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Abdul. All right, back to these questions here. So we have several, so here we go. Beyond how and this one is from Maynard SS Clark as well. Here, we'll start with this one. How much improvements are these presenters able to measure and demonstrate with evidence?
So I feel, yeah, go ahead, Chris.
No, go ahead.
So I feel, yes, the proof of concept, proof of value is extremely important when we think of scaling any technology. So let's say when we first built the initial versions of the new immersive tech which we are bringing, we first had to bring some evidence, concrete evidence, where is it really going to impact education or not? it's my assumption, right? So we need to have evidence, and for that we conduct an experimental research pilot with the help of industry experts and some of the great organization under the umbrella, and we improved students visualization, learning, and retention by more than 24% in 70% less time. So the point is that yes, there are some similar evidences which we all work, even here Nathan and Chris also, when they work on any project, they think of tracking the impact track with that gives a strong evidence of how the impact is being driven by the technology implementation.
Okay, and then another question from Maynard. Beyond how you use the currently available technologies, what kind of electronics technology innovations will likely change the nature of the discipline?
So I think I have answered that question in the question box, that I think in the bonus session I'm going to cover different types of immersive technologies, devices, electronics, which are covered in immersive tech. But if any other speaker here would like to share, like Nathan sir, Chris, or Richard sir would like to share, would love to hear.
So I can add to that. Sorry.
After you.
Yeah, it's more going to be biotechnology, so bioelectronics. This is where we'll be able to put electronics inside ourselves. Eventually, they say by the mid-2030s, we'll be able to have AR glasses that will be contact lenses that will fit onto our eyes. So they've already been able to generate voltage to power these devices from your teardrops. So because of the salt in your teardrops, that can generate voltage, and they've already made rudimentary displays in a soft contact lens. So that's an example of how it'll be bioelectronics, which is one of the fastest growing industries in the world, that will be incorporated into immersive computing. So it'll eventually disappear. So we'll be able to not even notice if someone's looking at a virtual world or not.
Okay, and here is another question from Dave Brixius. Can someone speak to existing or potential opportunities for applying immersive technologies to the cryptography arena?
I am not familiar with cryptography. But I do have to go. I'm sorry. I have to get back to a real in-person conference. So it's nice to be a part of a virtual one. And, I got to run back downstairs. But it was a pleasure to be on the panel with you guys. Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. So talk to you later.
Cheers, Chris. I have to go as well, but I can just quickly speak about cryptography. There will be cryptography involved with any data that gets streamed to a headset. Using the latest TLS encryption. We use TLS encryption already to stream data securely to a headset. So that's one of the things. Also, where we're using headsets where they're viewing very sensitive data, we can encrypt the storage device on the headsets. Many headsets have storage, 64 gig or 128 gig of storage inside the headset. And we can encrypt that storage. So in case someone stole the headset or whatever, they wouldn't be able to take the storage chip out and use another computer to read it. So that's how I would see it used, both in the streaming and the storage of the device, of the data securely on the device.
Another.
We have to get going, guys.
I think we have to stop. I need to go too. Sorry, Tiffany.
That's okay.
We've run over a bit, I think.
Well, I'm sorry if there are still questions that we're not going to be able to ask or answer, but we will. I don't know. We'll have to do another.
Be able to answer them offline or something. Yeah.
No problem. Well, thank you, everyone. And Abdul, I'm going to turn it over to you for your bonus session. I'm sorry we didn't get to all the questions, but maybe I'll have a couple people back for a Q&A again. So, Abdul, the stage is yours. So we invite you to stay for the bonus session.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So yeah, just give me a second. I'm just going to turn on my PPT.
Well, I will comment on one last one then, because I saw there was a question there about what awards are available for people in XR and immersive technologies. And we do have our Industry Insights IoT Awards coming up, and there's a Digital Transformation Innovator of the Year award, as well as Thought Leader of the Year award. So take a look at those. Maybe your product will fit into one of those categories. There's also space tech. There's all kinds. So be sure to check that out and attend Smart Money next month. Okay. Abdul, the stage is yours. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, great. So yeah, so here we are going to start the bonus session. So the bonus session is on the introduction to immersive technology, immersive education, and where we are going to explore the world of immersive technologies, understanding how it could implement in the corporate/industry, other sectors as well. We're going to understand deep dive different types of immersive technology. We are going to understand different use cases and the secret sauce of immersive tech. So I think that's going to be one of the most interesting ingredient which we are going to discuss on the secret sauce of immersive tech and its impact. So here, let's start. Let's begin. So first, understanding different types of immersive tech. So there are major three categories which we are going to understand. So first is the virtual reality. So in virtual reality, in virtual reality, you enter the virtual world by disconnecting from the real world. And the examples are Google VR Cardboard, Oculus Rift, HTC Vive, where you wear a headset, you enter into a virtual world, virtual space, but you are disconnected from the real world. So you cannot see what's happening around the real world. And that's virtual reality. And the second one is the augmented reality. So augmented reality is blending of the virtual world and the real world. So here you don't have to disconnect from the real world, and the examples are, as you can see, Pokemon Go, Snapchat, Instagram filter. These are some of the examples where you are able to see the virtual world interacting with your real world and with the help of mobile phone devices. Now, the third one is MR/XR. So MR, mixed reality or extended reality. These are sometimes also called as extended version of augmented reality, because in augmented reality, you blend the virtual world with the real world. And it same happens in MR/XR, but with the help of headset. So in MR/XR, again, it blends the real world with the virtual world, as you can see in the video clip, but with the help of headset instead of a mobile phone. So that creates more immersive experience in terms of the interacting with the digital world. Now, apart from these three, there are a few more I would like to show some light. So the fourth one is 360-degree video or image. So you might have watched the YouTube has this feature of supporting 360-degree videos where you can watch the video, you can turn on around your angle, you can see the right side, left side by dragging using the cursor or keyboard, and that's the 360-degree video image. And there are 3D scanners available in the market which you can use for creating such 360-degree video experiences. These are mostly used in creating virtual physical experiences, like having a virtual tour of Paris or something like that. Now, the fifth one is VR simulators. So you might have seen something like this in, game zones, like in shopping malls. There they have game zones, and you can use the car simulator to play a car game. You can have a gun simulator to play a shooting game. You can have a flight simulator. Now these simulators have been integrated with the immersive technology. That means that till now we have seen car simulator where you drive and you can see on your screen the game, right? You can experience. But what if you can wear a headset You can drive using a simulator and you can see in the virtual world, and it would look like you are inside the virtual world. You are a part of it physically as well. So that enhances the whole experience. And also, as we discussed, the IoT, the future. So many of you who are looking to who are from IoT background can also land up on exploring this area where via simulations, where you can focus on integrating existing simulators or create new simulators for immersive technology to enhance the experience, like car driving, plane, etc. Many. There's no limit. There are infinite possibilities. The sixth one is VR suit or exoskeleton, where you wear a suit, and these are mostly biotech and IoT integration, where it detects your body, it blends with your body mechanism. And so let's say if you're wearing a VR suit and you're playing a shooting game, and someone has shoot you or someone has punched you in the game, but you can feel it. So let's say if you jump, you can feel the jump. If you fall down in the game, you can literally feel those senses in your body physically. And these are the VR exoskeleton suits, which makes that happen, which enables that high interactivity, connectivity between the body and the virtual world. So these are some of the amazing immersive technologies which are coming up, and other two more include like web immersive and holography, which I am currently working on, which is my most favorite as well. Now, some of the immersive technologies which I'm currently working on, I would like to share. So one is the holographic interactive technology. So after 5 years of intense research development, we are on the verge of launching soon this holographic world's first futuristic and patent protected holographic system, which can convert an auditorium room into a holographic interactive experience, just like in science fiction movies like Iron Man. So here's just a small video to have a look at, where we created this is the holographic box we created, and you can interact with the holographic content using a finger gesture, just like in science fiction movies you can do. And we also built some features like holographic teleportation or telepresence, so where you can be holographically present anywhere in the world using this tech. And so these are some of the examples which we are building a whole new system. So this is a small demo clip of how holographic teleportation, telepresence looks like. We have watched in movies like Star Trek and Avatar, where they holographically teleport from one place to another. So I feel that holographic is going to be one of the biggest feature. Everything is going to be revolutionized with the holographic world, where it doesn't require any headset or eyewear to experience 3D. So this device doesn't require any headset or eyewear, so everyone in the room can experience without having any individual equipment to experience. So yeah, so this is one. And then the second one, which I am firstly working on, would like to share, is the web immersive technology, Web 3D, WebGL. And one of the technology which we are introducing that domain is virtual 3D toolbox, where it's our proprietary immersive software technology to convert an online or offline presentation or lecture into a live 3D interactive experience. So I will show a small demo of the same later. So the main advantage of having such web immersive technology is that these are accessible on any device in the world, including mobile phone, tablet, laptop. So it doesn't require any additional headset, eyewear, or any other equipment. So it blends with whatever hardware infrastructure you have and blends easily with those. So this is the power of web immersive technology, and I feel one of the biggest future as well. Now, here comes to the part where we are going to understand how immersive technology benefit businesses, and understanding the secret sauce. How does immersive technology is impacting the business? Why should any business think of implementing it? What's the benefit, right? So we are going to understand these things, and one of the best secret sauce is the power of retention. So this is a very popular statistics called as by Edward Dale, which is called an Edward Dale cone of learning, where it represents how the retention is enhanced with the help of immersive tech. So for any business, what's the most important? One of the most important for any business is to drive more business sales and marketing, and to have more higher conversions, sell more of their products, and for that, retention is the key. Product retention, brand retention. We all want the customers to stick around with our brand, stick around with our vision, stick around with our product. And hence, for many of the big brands, billion-dollar brands, they invest millions, billions of dollars on the retention, on driving campaigns which could enhance retention. And immersive tech does that wonderful. It's wonderfully done by the immersive technologies, where these graphs represent that when, let's say, if you learn anything today, any piece of information, after 2 weeks, how much percentage of that are you going to remember? So let's say if you are watching a video or something, you would remember only, let's say, 50% of that. But with the help of immersive tech, that retention increases from 50% to 90%. So let's say if today, if you're showing a presentation of your product with immersive technology, your users or customers are more likely to remember more than 90% of that after 2 weeks. And that is the secret sauce, that it increases the sales conversion. It increases the brand recall for the audience, for the customers. It makes the customers remember more the brand they experience, and they connect that experience with the brand who provided that. And this is the secret sauce. Now, understanding the proof of value. So even when I was working on this tech, as we also discussed about the evidences, so this is the data which I would like to share with you. So this was the result of research pilot test which we conducted 2 years ago, and we use immersive technology, so our own technology which we developed, and these were the results. So the users so with a group of users, we were able to increase the retention by more than 24% in 70% less time. So that means you can have a lesser minute marketing video or experience with enhanced retention. And that is the key, because another challenge whenever we drive any marketing campaign is that the marketing should be crisp, short, as short as possible, because your customers have time limit, right? So that is the biggest asset, and immersive technology brings that same impact, I would say better impact, in least time. And so this is the proof of value which I personally observed when we conducted a research pilot test on a group of users. Now, understanding the future of immersive tech in different domains. So in the previous webinar of expanding education by IoT marketing, so I took a bonus session that time you can access through IoT marketing LinkedIn event page. In the previous event session, where I covered the future of immersive tech in education and training, here we are going to focus more on other non-education sectors in industry and corporate world, like e-commerce, architecture, healthcare, consumer brands, furniture, etc. So let's deep dive. So here's one future. So enhancing the buying experience. Now, what happens, as we discussed, the secret sauce is retention. And when you enhance the buying experience for any customer, it increases your conversions. And one of the best example companies which is doing this is ICA. So if you say ICA, a furniture company, they have created the experience centers, where a store which, it's not just a store, it's more of an experience center, where they have created a maze-like structure, very wonderful thought process. They have designed wonderfully to make the audience, make the visitors experience more before they buy anything. Because if you want to make any customer buy your product, you need to provide them more and more buying experience. You need to provide more and more details. And that is why majority of the customers spend more time in stores and shopping more, because they want to experience before they buy anything, right? Whether it is food, whether they buy anything, they want to understand more details. They want to understand more features before they buy. And hence the future of immersive tech is to revolutionize the buying experience. And I would like to show you one example of the same. So this is the exam video clip of Walmart and how Walmart has successfully created virtual shopping experience. They use immersive technology to create a complete virtual mall to enhance the whole buying experience at the remote level. So you don't have to go physically. Now, one of the biggest concern which came up due to the pandemic was the lack of physical interaction. So there were many products which requires physical experience with the product before they buy, like automobile cars, four-wheelers. So now companies like Walmart are implementing immersive tech in bridging that gap of accessibility and interaction at the virtual level. So you can still experience a four-wheeler in the virtual world with the help of immersive tech. So just let's have a look at how Walmart is doing this. Oh, you can't see the hear the audio. Okay. Okay, so here I will just share. So here, as you can see, what they're doing is they have created a complete virtual mall, and with this virtual mall, they have placed all the products. They have created small store area, booths over there, and they allow any customer in the world to have that same shopping experience virtually. Now here it again, as I mentioned, enhance the buying experience. When you enhance the buying experience, you're making the customer more likely to buy your product because you're providing more and more information to them, and that is the key. So you can also have you can just search on YouTube on how Walmart is using immersive tech in virtual shopping experience, and you can see more of this video over the internet as a reference. Now, going next, product marketing. So this is another future that majority of the consumer brands, any company which has a physical product and requires experience, buying experience, can use this tech, immersive technology, to enhance their whole marketing campaign. So this is, I'm just going to show you one demo which I've personally created. So we have created one use case study for a company, popular company called as Skull Candy, and this company we have created a use case for them where you can experience the product. We can experience the product before buying them and using this immersive technology. So we used our virtual 3D toolbox software technology to build a new version of tech where it could be used for e-commerce, product marketing. So I would like to just show you a demo of how this looks like, how it feels, because immersive technology not just allows you to look at the product but feel the product, and that is the USP, that is the unique proposition, one of the unique proposition of immersive tech. I'm just going to share my screen.
Well, it looks like either he lost communication there for a second. There you go.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, I think I want to disable the screen and change the screen. Instead, I left the event by mistake.
All good.
So this is one example of the product marketing which we created. So this is the company we created. This was Skull Candy. So this is a new product, one of the latest product they have launched called as Crusher series, and we created a complete virtual experience of the product, how they can market the product, how they can present the product. So if you see the content evolution, how the content evolution happened from photos to videos, 2D videos and 3D animated videos. Now this is more like a 3D interactive and simulative content, a new way, a next version of the content experience where you can not only see the product but feel the product. You can feel the material. You can feel whether the material is glossy finished or is it matte finish. You can experience. You can feel the material. You can also so these are tags, as you can see these cube. These are called as 3D information tags where you can understand more about the product. So let's say
charge faster. Rapid charge gives you 3 hours of use from just a 10-minute charge. Folding feature.
So this is a live demonstration of how immersive tech can really revolutionize the buying experience. Now imagine this is we are going to implement. So we are going to implement this with all the existing e-commerce pages. So Skull Candy is going to use this, integrate this with their selling page. So this is also called as integration of web page. So here we have integrated the whole marketing material, including the product web page, videos, and everything over here with this tech. And you can literally buy the product from here. You can literally visit there, any product video, anything at your fingertip, right? And you don't need any headset or eyewear. So this creates an more buzz around how this could revolutionize and bring that futuristic experience of experiencing the technology. And one of the key element is that it reduces the surprising element. So what happens is whenever you buy any product on, let's say on Amazon or something, you first look at the pictures, you first look at the features and anything, and you set up an expectation of the product. And when you receive, there is a difference in what you expected and what you receive, and that creates disappointment. That creates the surprising element, what we call. And this surprising element damages the brand reputation and product reputation. And hence, with technologies like this, you can reduce these surprising elements to a good extent, and you can make your customers trust in your brand, trust in your product, where they can feel the product before they're buying and they can set up the right expectation. So this is going to be a big revolution in the e-commerce and the online shopping, for the consumer brands all over the world. This is one more I would like to show, virtual try-ons. So virtual try-ons is that before you buy anything, first is you interact with, you immerse with that product in 3D using immersive tech, and on the other hand is you try it. So let's say there is one company called as Lenskart, which has successfully implemented immersive tech in enhancing the business. And really, Lenskart is right now a really huge company where they successfully integrated the AR technology in enhancing the virtual try-on of their eyeglasses. So I would strongly recommend all of you to visit Lenskart website. So there will be option of try in 3D. So that will scan your face and you can literally try out any eyewear before you buy, and it will show how it will look on your face. It will show you all the different types of glasses. It will show you the right recommendation with the help of AI, and with the help of immersive tech, it will show you how it would look on your face. And this is the power. And with this, Lenskart has scaled from a small level to a million, a big, huge $1 million level, hundreds of millions of dollars. They've drive with using this technology because the customer are able to feel before the product. They are able to try out before their product, experience such products. Similar kind of thing is also seen in furniture industry, where you can, let's say if you want to buy a chair, you can try that furniture in your home. So you can literally use your phone camera and you can scan your room. It uses your room, scans your room, and it places the chair in your room, just like Pokemon Go game. And you can experience that. You can search, find these things over the internet. So virtual try-on is another big future I see in the e-commerce sector, where any consumer brand can, adopt towards this. And these are all which I'm showing a proven model. So these all are been proven model. Evidences are there of how successful impacts have been driven using these applications of immersive technology. So yeah, so that's it. So these were some of the areas which I wanted to cover in immersive tech, which will help you to understand what are different types of immersive tech and what are the different use cases in the industry and which one you can adopt. And other sectors which we can look at our architecture, as we discussed during the webinar, that the construction administrators, interior designers, and architecture firms can use immersive tech in showing the customers the final rendered in a virtual world to show their clients how it would look like. The real estate would use this technology to provide the customers a remote virtual experience, how the flat would look like, how the rooms are, how the infrastructure is before you book. And third is the healthcare. Now, in the healthcare, some of the use cases which I've been personally working on is with the doctors. So what we are doing is that we are creating 3D immersive content library of biology modules, and these modules would be used by surgeons and in hospitals and clinics like dental clinics, where they're using this technology in educating the patients during a diagnosis. So let's say if I'm a patient, I'm having a dental problem, I would visit a dental clinic. They would first identify what's the problem, and with the help of immersive tech, they can show me that, Abdul, this is where the problem is, this is why you are facing this problem, these symptoms, and we need to take these treatments and how this treatment would look. So they will again show me, with the help of immersive tech, they will show me that, Abdul, see, this is the before and this would be how after. So now usually what they do is they use images. Now these images won't provide a clear understanding how the treatment would affect your teeth, and that's where the immersive tech is providing that enhanced experience, where it is solving this problem for the patient, doctors and patient as well. So like during a heart surgery, majority of the heart surgeons face challenge in educating the customer. They literally use pen and paper to draw that what is the problem, where is the blockage in your heart, what we have to do in terms of treatment, how it would impact, and they're really struggling a lot. So these are some of the areas. And others which you can look at is the e-learning content. So as I mentioned, many of the companies are using 2D animated motion graphics and 3D animated videos for driving a video of their product and how it would look like. And these companies can use this immersive tech. And companies like edtech companies, when companies which are utilizing e-learning content for their training, for sales training, in-house operation training, can use this technology. So there are multiple areas of implementation for a same sector. You need to identify what's your critical problem, where you want to solve, what you want to solve, and how immersive tech can bring value. So these are some of the use cases, and we are going to discuss more in detail in our upcoming 2 workshops. So that brings me to the 2 upcoming workshops which are coming. So from 17th to 19th of November, we are organizing 2 workshops on 2 titles. So first one is reinventing education and training with immersive technology, where we are going to focus on the education, how to use this immersive technology in reinventing education. We are going to understand. So this is the workshop schedule. So there will be 3 days. So day 1 would be a combined batch for both the workshop, where we are going to have 3 sessions. One is the introduction of immersive tech and its types, evolution of immersive technology, which is one of my most favorite, where we are going to understand what was the most early version of immersive tech, how it evolution happened to what we have today, and then understanding how it works, the science behind immersive tech. And in the day 2, we are going to focus on the education. Day 3 are going to focus more on the corporate/industry level. So these are the workshop we are going to have, and I would strongly recommend all of you to attend, because I have personally experienced that one of the biggest barrier, I would say the biggest barrier towards adoption to a new technology, is the lack of awareness. And with that vision, we a lot of demand, lot of companies, institution requested us to bring any enhanced workshop, intense workshop, which could help them to deeply understand the immersive tech, deeply understand its use cases and the science before implementing it. So with that vision, we have organized this workshop to solve these problems, which I think would be critical for all of you to equip yourself with the upcoming new technologies. So yeah, that's it. So this is going to be amazing, fun workshop, very experiential. So our focus would be more on providing interactive and experiential learning. So we are not just going to have like one-way interaction. So we are going to have this session in a way where the participants can engage with me live. You can interact. We are going to have many experiential things. I'm going to live demonstrate, just like how I demonstrated that headphone skull candy thing live. We are going to have some similar kind of really cool stuff. Before my Tiffany, in my earlier workshops, when I used to conduct these at institutions and companies, they were like baffled, and used to take me after the workshop that Abdul, we were retrying that, and it's like mind-boggling. So they're going to have such kind of interactive and experiential activity during the workshop. So it's going to be really a lot of fun and learning, and most importantly, last but not the least, implementation training. So I'm going to teach all of you how to conduct a successful pilot, a successful framework to conduct a successful pilot, and with that pilot, the understanding the implementation process. So we are going to teach you how to do that, and yeah, that's it. So it's going to be fun.
Thank you, Abdul. I hope everyone enjoyed the bonus session, and I'm sure that the workshop is going to be amazing. So if you're interested in learning more about pilots and how immersive technology works and how you can use it, by all means, sign up and register for Abdul's session. It'll be a great workshop. Thank you again, Abdul.
Thank you so much, and have a great day. Thank you thank you to all to attend this webinar, and all the best. And if you have any queries regarding workshop or anything, you can reach out to IoT Marketing. You can also reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm very active, super active on LinkedIn. So yeah, looking forward. Thank you all.
And Maynard, you had another question in the chat that I was reading through. You left us a lot of great questions. And it said, might you or others invent some realities for dogs and cats whose sensory balancing is different from that of humans? There's actually an interesting study happening in Russia with cows, and they find that putting virtual reality headsets during winter months produces better milk and better results when they have the virtual headset on, looking at summer pastures. And it was actually a joke, but it's also true, because it can be a real mood enhancer. Just thought I'd leave you on that note.
Yeah, really. So I feel that there are infinite possibilities. We need to just overcome our fear, equip ourselves with at least the basic understanding of how immersive tech works. And I think you all can, unleash your creativity and come up with some crazy ideas like these, and you can test it out, and yeah.
And if you want to learn more about what's happening in blockchain and how that interacts with immersive technology, come back next month. That's Smart Money 4.0, and it's November 18th. So be sure to attend. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Take care.